Our story kicks off with a young man on his last legs, sweating buckets under an immense weight. This is the daily grind, hauling massive chunks of monster carcasses through a desolate, ruined city. A foreman screams that if they don't finish moving everything by sundown, no one's getting dinner. He yells that if you're still breathing, you'd better get up and keep moving. Our boy lets out a pained scream, pushing his body past its absolute limit. But his captain just calls him a useless piece of crap named Zhou Yi and tells him to get a move on. Meet Zhou Yi, an ordinary guy just trying to survive this brutal, post-apocalyptic world. But this wasn't always the norm. It all began not too long ago, back in the year 2026. A modern, bustling world was suddenly struck by a crisis beyond all human comprehension. Massive insects erupted from deep underground, tearing cities apart and opening countless portals to other worlds known as abysses. These abysses were crawling with nightmare fuel monsters, like something from a hardcore game dungeon. But they also unleashed a mysterious radiation, granting a lucky few incredible powers as awakeners. For everyone else who didn't awaken, life became a trash-tier grind doing the filthiest jobs just to eat. This brings us back to our boy, Zhou Yi, and his crew, pushing their bodies to the brink. He finally collapses from sheer exhaustion, unable to move another inch. But his captain, a real piece of work, doesn't see an exhausted man. He grabs Zhou Yi by the collar, ready to beat some sense into him. The captain screams at him, accusing him of slacking off and trying to play the victim. Zhou Yi just takes the verbal assault, seemingly broken and defeated. But as he lowers his head, a faint, almost unnoticeable smirk plays on his lips. With a fresh bruise on his cheek, our boy sarcastically asks the captain if his face hurt his hand. The captain, completely fed up, tells him to get lost if he can't work. But Zhou Yi insists he can. He's then ordered to move a massive monster corpse before dark. Otherwise, no one gets to eat tonight. But as Zhou Yi approaches the carcass, a sudden, violent tremor shakes the entire area. He whips around, completely dumbfounded, wondering if it was just an earthquake. Turns out, it wasn't an earthquake. The supposedly dead monster's head rockets upwards, its horrifying maw wide open. Zhou Yi is frozen in sheer terror, his mind racing as he realizes the beast is still alive. The other laborers are just as horrified, their faces pale with the sudden realization of their doom. Absolute chaos erupts as the monster snatches a worker and everyone else bolts for their lives. Amidst the panic, Zhou Yi runs with a steely glint in his eyes, already thinking of a way out. Amidst the chaos, Foreman Zhang realizes that simply running is a one-way ticket to the grave. A cold, ruthless glint appears in his eyes as he formulates a truly despicable plan. Suddenly, the sharp crack of a gunshot rips through the air. Our boy Zhou Yi stumbles, a searing pain exploding from his leg. He's completely shocked, his mind reeling as he tries to figure out what just happened. Looking back, he sees the horrifying truth. Foreman Zhang is standing there, pistol aimed right at him. The foreman just cackles, leaving Zhou Yi crippled on the ground to serve as monster bait. Zhang doesn't spare him a second glance, callously declaring that this is the only purpose for weaklings. The bitter realization hits Zhou Yi like a truck the captain left him behind to save his own skin. As despair sets in, he reaches out, wondering why survival is so damn hard for someone powerless like him. A single tear escapes his eye, a testament to his utter despair. But as his vision clears, a fire of pure hatred for this cruel world ignites within him. His gaze falls upon a tiny cockroach, and a strange thought crosses his mind. He muses that in a world this messed up, maybe only cockroaches have it easy, surviving on scraps. After all, they're practically unkillable, having even survived the apocalyptic abyssal radiation. As a giant maw descends upon him, he makes a final, desperate wish for his next life. In a gory splash, his life ends, wishing he could have been a simple cockroach. But then, a bizarre system window appears, initiating a human transformation protocol that fails over and over. After more than 1 million failed attempts, something finally clicks, and reality shifts to a dark alley. His consciousness returns, and as he raises his hand, he realizes with a jolt that it's no longer human. Desperate for answers, our boy spots a shard of glass nearby, hoping to see what he's become. But the reflection that stares back is a horrifying, monstrous cockroach, leaving him utterly dumbfounded. He realizes his own body is a weird, chibified version, a stark contrast to the terrifying image in the mirror. The horrifying truth crashes down on him, as he questions if this is really his new form. His mind shatters. His last, desperate wish to become a cockroach actually came true. He inspects his new body, noticing 2 extra arms that somehow feel like they've always been there. But then he feels a weird twitch from a muscle in his back he's never felt before. Without warning, wings burst out, sending him flying uncontrollably as he screams for it to stop. After a clumsy flight and a hard landing, he's left in a state of shock. He figures it out. Just tensing his back muscles makes his new wings move on their own. Our boy screams in frustration, lamenting that if he knew last wishes were so potent, he'd have asked for something way better. Suddenly, a digital voice booms, calling him an ungrateful human for his complaints. A tiny, glowing cockroach god appears, absolutely furious that he dares mock its divine blessing. It reveals that in 5,000 years, he's the first to pray for its power, and it was about to make him OP. Realizing he's about to lose his cheat system, Zhou Yi instantly drops to his knees, begging for forgiveness. The cockroach god just gives him a deadpan stare, completely unimpressed by the sudden change of heart. With a silent poof, the god vanishes into thin air, leaving our boy all alone. A system message pops up, delivering the brutal news. The system has shut down because the cockroach god dislikes him. Over the next 10 days, he desperately tries to summon the system, screaming into the empty ruins. But it's no use. He's left to grapple with the fact that he fumbled his one and only chance. He's hit with a sudden realization. He can understand the chittering of other cockroaches, who are all wondering what his deal is. As the first night falls, the grim reality sets in. Joking about being a roach was one thing, but actually living this trash, tier life is disgusting. His horror intensifies when he sees his new brethren feasting on some unidentifiable filth, and he can't help but vomit a rainbow of pure disgust. One of the roaches, mid-bite, looks up, completely dumbfounded by our boy's dramatic reaction. Suddenly, a friendly roach scurries over, offering to share a piece of what he calls freshly dropped dung. Zhou Yi is absolutely mortified, screaming for the creature to stay the hell away from him. But the roach is persistent, kindly offering him the solid piece, since he prefers his own meal to be runny. That's the last straw. Our boy snaps, unleashing a furious punch while yelling at him to back off. The blow connects with a solid thwack, sending the well-meaning roach flying across the ground. Lying there, defeated, the poor guy just whimpers that his feelings are hurt, completely oblivious to why he just got decked. Still fuming, our boy tells the poor roach his breath smells like literal crap, and to go die somewhere else. But by the 5th night, starvation hits hard, and he shamefully admits that even poop is starting to smell good. He panics, realizing he needs to find real food fast, or he might actually end up sleepwalking into a pile of dung. Tapping into his human knowledge, he figures the plastic trash bags that block smells for normal roaches won't work on him. He tears into a bag and hits the jackpot, finding something that's only 3 years expired. A system window pops up, identifying an expired egg yolk pie as edible and listing its calories. His human side is instantly repulsed, thinking that a 3-year-old snack is just plain nasty. But his stomach rumbles uncontrollably, and the sheer force of his hunger starts to overpower his disgust. He finally takes a bite and is blown away. What's trash to a human is a gourmet feast for a cockroach. 10 nights pass, and with the cockroach god still gone, he starts to wonder if this whole apocalypse plan was a mistake. Our boy hits rock bottom, thinking about ending it all, but realizes being a cockroach makes him nearly indestructible. The only way out is to get eaten, but the sheer thought of that is too horrifying to even consider. Deciding to live, he figures his best shot is to use his human smarts to become the king of a colony. He's full of confidence, believing his human intelligence is all the cheat code he needs to thrive. He wakes up a sleeping roach, calling him Little Fatty, and offering to team up to conquer this world. But the other roach just scoffs, telling him to get lost, since he can't even find fresh poop. The brutal rejection makes him realize that in this world, power is about being seen as a provider. He hardens his resolve, knowing he just needs one chance to prove he's not some trash-tier roach. On his 20th day, that chance arrives when some elite roaches announce they're moving to better feeding grounds. But the entire colony starts crying about leaving the poop behind, and our boy is just dumbfounded by his new people. The other roaches are wailing, terrified to go outside, but our boy just tells them to shut their traps. He can't believe his eyes. Are cockroaches really this pathetic and lazy? The elite roaches try to rally the troops, asking for a single volunteer to scout ahead, but all they get back is dead silence from the terrified mob. Our boy is completely fed up with these bugs, deciding he doesn't need their approval to survive. Suddenly, a message from the cockroach god pops up, hinting that this mission could earn him forgiveness. Realizing this is his one shot, he raises his hand with newfound determination. He volunteers to lead the charge, and the entire colony is just dumbfounded. Instantly, the other roaches are looking at him with awe, calling him a true hero. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he realizes this is the perfect start to his takeover. With his human memories back, our boy feels like he's got his cheat code reactivated. He scoffs at the dam, telling a terrified roach that crossing it will be a piece of cake. But the other bug explains that every food run is a suicide mission, with giant predators picking them off. Suddenly, our boy realizes the cockroach god might have just sent him out as a sacrifice. He's about to back out of the whole deal until a brilliant idea strikes him. Meanwhile, the terrified roach is completely losing it, crying his eyes out. An elite cockroach grabs the deserter from behind, not tolerating any cowardice. The elite demands to know where the trash-tier bug thinks he's going. But our boy steps in, announcing that beyond the dam lies a feast of monster corpses. First come, first served. The roaches are dumbfounded. They can eat monsters now? He smirks and tells them to keep up as he leads the way. But the cowardly roach tries to back out, pathetically claiming he's on a diet. The elite cockroach just stares him down, his silence more terrifying than any threat. In a flash, the elite moves with blinding speed, not tolerating this insubordination. He snatches the little guy, declaring that if they want Scout for food, they'll become food instead. Watching this, our boy is hit with a grim realization. Even as bugs, it's still survival of the fittest. He's suddenly thrown back into a memory of his human life, where his weak team was treated as disposable nobodies. His old foreman's voice echoes in his mind, screaming at them for being useless freeloaders. He realizes the foreman and this elite cockroach are cut from the same trash-tier cloth. Back in the present, the elite smashes the small roach into the ground, telling him to be grateful for the chance to die for the colony. He then launches himself into the air, ready to execute the deserter with a devastating final blow. The weakling is brutally crushed underfoot, a grim lesson for anyone else thinking of deserting. Watching this unfold, our boy is dead set on getting his cheat code back to escape this dog-eat-dog world. He realizes his current abilities are trashed here. He needs to get overwhelmingly stronger to survive. With newfound resolve, he leads a small scouting party of his own, out into the treacherous night. He takes charge, telling his brothers to spread out and signal if they find anything. But one of the little guys is completely terrified, clinging to him for dear life. Our boy just looks on, annoyed that he has to babysit in a life-or-death situation. The group soon discovers a strange area with wave barriers, which makes no sense since there's no river. Turns out, 2 of the elite cockroaches have been tailing them, getting bored that nothing has happened yet. The other elite agrees, saying they can't let these little brats take all the good stuff for themselves. The elites just laugh, deciding to fly over and use the scouts as bait if things get dicey. Down below, the scouting party is fuming, wondering why the elites with wings made them walk into danger. Our boy watches them go, disgusted by their cowardice. But suddenly he freezes, sensing an immense pressure as a giant, reptilian eye opens from the ground below. One of the scouts is paralyzed with fear, his brain completely short-circuiting. With dawning horror, he realizes the stones they're standing on aren't stones at all. They've walked straight into a trap laid by a whole horde of massive, camouflaged toad monsters. The entire party breaks down, screaming as they realize they're standing on their own graves. A tongue snaps out with lightning speed, snagging one of the flying elites who screams for everyone to scatter. It's an absolute bloodbath as the toads awaken, their tongues lashing out to devour the helpless cockroaches. Just as chaos erupts, our boy's system kicks in, analyzing the mutant toad and revealing a critical weakness. They can't see stationary prey. He screams at the other cockroaches to stay still, but they're too busy having a complete meltdown, crying for their mothers. Suddenly, the divine cockroach god appears, telling Zhou Yi that he's being granted a choice. The first option is simple: take the coward's way out, follow a safe route, and escape with his life. But the second option is far more tempting. Save a comrade, gain his first loyal follower, and take the first step toward becoming the cockroach king. Zhou Yi is dumbfounded. He questions how he can become a king if he ends up as toad food. He steels his resolve, knowing he has to make a choice, while another cockroach continues to wail in the background. He looks over at the pathetic bug cowering behind a rock, and it seems his decision is made. But this moment triggers a memory, flashing him back to his desperate days as a human. He remembers the powerlessness, the chaos, and realizes the thing he wanted most back then wasn't to become a bug, but something more. He remembers reaching out from the rubble, wishing for just one thing. Back when he was a helpless human, he wished someone would be brave enough to turn back and save him. The cockroach god starts a countdown, and our boy realizes that even now, he still longs for a savior. With his mind made up, he swoops in to save the other bug, who's still yelling at him for being a fatso. The rescued roach is bawling his eyes out with gratitude, but Zhou Yi snaps at him to shut up and let him concentrate. He grabs his new blubbering comrade and makes a desperate flight for safety. But their escape is cut short as the gaping maw of a massive camo toad appears right in their path. With no other choice, Zhou Yi unleashes a desperate blast of energy straight down the monster's throat. It's not enough. The toad's jaws clamp down, and our boy is trapped, using every ounce of strength to hold them open. Suddenly, a system notification appears. He's passed the cockroach god's test, unlocking a terrifying new trait called Devour All Things. With his new trait activated, our boy decides to turn the tables on this trash-tier toad. He immediately absorbs the monster's abilities, gaining a sticky tongue and acidic mucus. The camo toad doesn't stand a chance, exploding from the inside out in a shower of green gore. A special reward notification pops up as a human foot emerges from the disgusting puddle. Turns out, the reward was his human form, unlocking a powerful new state called Blind Body. He can feel the raw power coursing through him, a grim smile spreading across his face. Zhou Yi throws his arms wide and lets out a triumphant roar, announcing his return to the world. The cockroach god appears, commending him for his righteousness and declaring him a worthy successor. Our boy is completely dumbfounded, wondering if this means he's finally free from his cockroach life. But the god simply explains that being a cockroach means being indestructible, so his form is irrelevant. Zhou Yi is completely lost, asking the god to dumb it down for him. The god screams that it's simple. He gets to be human while keeping his cockroach immortality. It finally clicks, and our boy is ecstatic, celebrating his freedom from being a bug. But in his joyous leap, he feels something squish underneath his foot. He lifts his foot in horror to see he's accidentally flattened the very fatty cockroach he just saved. The cockroach god is absolutely livid, pointing out that he just murdered the companion he was rewarded for protecting. Total panic sets in, as Zhou Yi realizes his human form is on the line. He knows his survival now depends on his acting skills. The god continues to rage, calling him a moron and wondering how he could have chosen such an idiot. Without missing a beat, Zhou Yi starts wailing, clutching the remains of the cockroach in a display of utter despair. He puts on the performance of a lifetime, crying to the heavens about how fate has cruelly taken the companion he raised himself. His Oscar-worthy performance actually works, making the cockroach god think their bond might run deeper than he thought. But the god cuts the act short, telling our boy to stop crying because little fatty isn't actually dead. Turns out, the cockroach is his imperial guard, a guardian who can revive endlessly, as long as the King Zhou Yi lives. All he needs to do is kill some mutant monsters to refill its energy, and it'll pop right back to life. Hearing this, a wicked grin spreads across Zhou Yi's face. He was going to spare the toads, but now, that's impossible. He channels his inner colossal titan, vowing to teach these monsters the terror of being dominated by a human. But he gets a little too cocky, and one of the camo toads immediately lands a heavy blow on him. The brutal punch sends him flying, a harsh reminder that he's still just a squishy human. Furious, our boy thinks this little punk is looking down on him like he's some trash-tier giant slayer. The cockroach god reappears, frantically warning him that this particular mutant toad is dangerously strong. He realizes with horror that the toad's tongue is covered in a corrosive mucus that's melting his hands. The giant form isn't helping, as our boy lets out a pained scream from the agonizing acid. Completely unimpressed, the toad just sees a big red worm and lashes out with its tongue again. The slimy appendage wraps around his leg, and Zhou Yi is absolutely disgusted. With a flick of its tongue, the toad sends him flying through the air like a rag doll. He lands hard and roars in frustration, trying to rip the disgusting thing off of him. Back to his normal size, he complains to the cockroach god about being too weak, who just calls him an idiot for fighting like a brute. A light bulb goes off in Zhou Yi's head. He completely forgot he even had abilities. The cockroach god explains his ultimate skill, devour all things, telling him to eat the toad to gain immunity, but our boy just asks if he can cook it first. That's a hard no, as the god shoves the live toad down his throat, and the revolting taste makes him gag instantly. Our boy immediately spits out the toad, completely grossed out and telling the cockroach god he just can't do it. The god screams back that he's already surrounded, and will die if he doesn't eat, forcing Zhou Yi to look down at the ground. Turns out, an entire army of smaller toads has swarmed him, and he lets out a blood-curdling scream. As the creepy crawlies climb all over his body, his panic suddenly halts as a realization dawns on him. He remembers his past life, working himself to death without even a scrap of food to eat. His entire mindset flips. He realizes this isn't a punishment, it's a free buffet being served right to his mouth. With a new fire in his eyes, he stops whining and starts chowing down on the little monsters. His Devour All Things skill activates, granting him corrosive mucus, frog leap, and elastic muscles as he emerges reborn. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he thinks to himself that their pathetic tricks are useless now. He immediately puts his new skills to the test, leaping through the air and kicking the absolute stuffing out of the toad horde. Feeling his newfound power, our boy smugly reflects on how lonely it is to be invincible. His moment of cringe is abruptly shattered by a blinding flash of light from behind. He whips around, his instincts screaming that something is wrong. A convoy of armored trucks appears, with a soldier reporting a naked weirdo doing unspeakable things to toads. Mistaking them for rescuers, he tearfully reaches out, thinking his ordeal is finally over. But instead of a rescue, he gets a volley of arrows to the chest as the order to execute is given. The soldiers surrounding him don't hesitate for a second, treating him like just another monster. It turns out this heavily armed group is the infamous Extermination Squad. Zhou Yi is completely dumbfounded, the grim reality of the situation crashing down on him. He remembers them from his past life, their humanity's strongest awakeners, and they've mistaken him for the enemy. He recalls their purpose, to maintain order and protect the last bastions of humanity. The thought hits him, if these guys are here, it must mean he's finally close to a human city. Overcome with joy, our boy screams out, thinking his nightmare is finally over and these are his rescuers. But instead of a helping hand, he gets a face full of tranquilizer darts. He collapses, riddled with projectiles, completely stunned by the sudden, brutal attack. The squad's armored convoy rolls up, and soldiers dismount to secure their prize. They confirm the target is down and move in to capture him, treating him like some kind of rare specimen. With his last bit of strength, he raises a hand, desperately trying to tell them to wait, that it's all a mistake. But then something inside him snaps, and a new power, elastic muscles, activates on its own. His body instinctively flexes, and the darts are squeezed right out of his skin as he begins to stand up. The darts just pop right out of his skin, much to his own surprise. Seeing this, the soldiers immediately realize their target is far more dangerous than they thought and take up combat positions. Our boy frantically tries to explain it's all a misunderstanding, pleading with them that he's not an enemy. But they're not listening to a word he says. The order is given to aim and fire. Turns out, their captain is a smug-looking woman who coolly orders her squad to capture him alive. He's dumbfounded, wondering if these guys are even capable of understanding human speech. Suddenly, the roar of engines fills the air as several soldiers on motorcycles peel out. They immediately start closing in, boxing him in from all sides. In seconds, he's trapped in the center of a roaring vortex of bikes, a classic intimidation tactic. One of the riders pulls out a capture weapon, ready to make his move on the cornered target. Before he can react, high-tech wires shoot out and instantly bind his limbs. The soldiers gun their engines, yanking him off his feet and into the air. They peel off in 4 directions, stretching our boy out like a living X. The sheer force threatens to tear him apart as he screams in agony. But through the blinding pain, he grits his teeth, realizing he has to fight back now or never. He taps into a nasty little trick up his sleeve, activating his corrosive mucus ability. A foul, green slime begins to secrete from his skin, covering the restraints. The squad captain looks on, her smug expression faltering for just a second. The advanced wires are no match for his biology, melting away into nothing. Now free, he uses the built-up tension to launch himself like a missile toward the nearest soldier. The squad captain's smug look vanishes, realizing this isn't just some monster he might be an awakener. She screams at her squad not to let him escape as our boy makes a mad dash for freedom. One of the soldiers lunges forward, managing to grab him by the waist. But Zhou Yi's corrosive mucus makes him impossible to hold, and the soldier's hands slip right off. The soldier stares, dumbfounded, as the acidic slime begins to eat away at his gloves. His comrades can only watch as Zhou Yi continues to flee, one of them finding the whole chase rather amusing. Suddenly, another soldier leaps high into the air, preparing to bring down a crushing blow. He swings his weapon with enough force to shatter the ground where our boy stands. But Zhou Yi isn't just standing there. He sees the attack coming and prepares to counter. With a slick maneuver, he slides right under the attack, letting the soldier's weapon slam into empty space. Desperate, our boy calls on his system, activating a brand new trait he's never used before. He unleashes Frog Leap, rocketing himself an impossible distance across the battlefield. Landing far away, he can't believe his luck. The risky move actually worked. He glances back with a smug grin, seeing the soldiers as nothing more than distant specks. Getting cocky, he taunts the air, convinced there's no way they can catch him now. But his victory lap is cut short as he's suddenly tripped, his face full of confusion. He crashes to the ground, finding a mysterious purple ribbon wrapped tightly around his ankle. The squad captain reveals herself, casually asking if he really thought he'd gotten away. With a single, effortless pull, she yanks him off his feet and drags him helplessly toward her. Before he can even process what's happening, she unleashes a flurry of ribbons, completely immobilizing him. With our boy completely subdued, the squad captain learns this is the 13th target they've captured. Without a second thought, she hops on her bike and mercilessly drags him across the ruined city like a sack of potatoes. His desperate pleas for mercy are lost in the wind as a whole military convoy follows close behind. They're all heading towards a massive, fortified settlement known as Stronghold City, humanity's last bastion. As they approach the Vermilion Bird Gate, the guards announce the return of Vice Captain Eileen. She orders them to open the gate just enough to slip through, wary of any monsters lurking outside. Eileen coolly speeds through the narrow opening, showing she's done this 1,000 times. Our boy can only scream in terror as he's yanked through the massive gate just before it slams shut. His new home is revealed, the infamous Extermination Squad prison. Now in a prison uniform, he tries to talk his way out, but the staff are just shocked that this one, unlike the last 12, can actually speak. The squad captain warns the staff that, while the previous 12 refugees tested as human, her gut tells her something is deeply wrong with them. She recalls how they looked utterly inhuman, more like monsters wearing skin suits. One staffer suggests just executing them, but another insists they wait for the gene test results, refusing to become murderers. It finally dawns on our boy he was captured just because he fit the same weirdo profile as the others. The mention of a gene test sends him into a panic, and he desperately asks the cockroach god if they can be found out. But his divine backup is completely useless, having no idea what a gene test is, and our boy realizes he's on his own. With a heavy slam, the door to the cell block seals him inside his new concrete hell. The guards escort him down the hall, telling him to behave, but then they notice the lights are out where the other prisoners should be. One of the staff members turns to her colleague, asking if she moved the other 12 inmates somewhere. Her partner is just as confused, confirming she didn't touch them, as they both stare at the single remaining prisoner, wondering where everyone else went. Their attention turns to the only inmate left, a bald man sitting silently in his restraints, seemingly oblivious. The squad captain and her staff are completely baffled, unable to comprehend how 12 people could just vanish into thin air. Suddenly, a weird, fleshy membrane drops from the ceiling, completely covering our boy's head out of nowhere. Everyone looks up in sheer panic, their blood running cold as they try to process what is floating above them. And the answer is a scene from a horror movie. The 12 missing prisoners are now floating like grotesque, human-faced balloons. Their heads are swollen to impossible sizes, their faces stretched into silent, agonizing expressions of pure terror. Zhou Yi is about to have a full-blown panic attack when he notices the bald prisoner is now glowing with a sinister red aura. A low growl rumbles from the inmate's chest as he begins to power up, his face hidden in shadow except for 2 burning eyes. A sadistic grin spreads across his face as his skin begins to crack and split, revealing the monster he truly is. In a sickening burst of flesh and red energy, his head explodes into a horrifying maw of teeth, ready to feast. Our boy and a lead researcher are left completely dumbfounded by the sudden, horrifying transformation. The bald prisoner's new form is a writhing mass of flesh and tentacles, roaring as it lunges forward. It unleashes pure chaos, flinging Zhou Yi aside and ensnaring the helpless staff members. The squad captain reacts instantly, barely dodging a whip-like tentacle strike aimed right at her. She grits her teeth, finally understanding that this horrifying creature is the prisoner's true form. But the researcher isn't so lucky, screaming in agony as red pustules erupt all over her skin. The parasitic infection spreads with terrifying speed, consuming her in a matter of seconds. Zhou Yi looks down in horror to see the same grotesque spores blooming on his own arms, completely bewildered by the situation. Suddenly, the cockroach god appears, urgently warning him that he's been parasitized and needs to chew the monster's spores to survive. The monster ignores them, its gaze locked on the squad captain as it growls that it wants to possess her body. The squad captain smirks, completely unfazed. She's more interested in the fact this new species can talk. While she's distracted, the monster's tentacles snatch up the last 2 researchers, who scream in pure terror. Wasting no time, she summons her purple energy whip, ready to slice the beast to ribbons. She leaps through the air with insane agility, dodging the flailing limbs that smash the researchers into the floor. But she realizes this is a bad matchup. Parasite types are a pain, and her powers are nearly useless without any magic crystals. Her eyes then lock onto a tray of surgical tools, and a desperate plan begins to form. Using her energy, she telekinetically lifts a single, gleaming scalpel from the tray. With a powerful flick, she launches the tiny blade like a high-speed bullet right at the creature. The energized scalpel slices clean through one of the monster's disgusting, eye-covered tentacles. The beast recoils, but it's already finished its work, gruesomely absorbing the 2 researchers into its pulsating flesh. The squad captain's eyes widen as she realizes her target is being used as a human shield. With insane control, she halts the scalpel just an inch from the infected researcher's face. The monster seizes the opportunity, grabbing our boy Zhou Yi and calling the captain a cowardly human. As the spores dig into him, the cockroach god tells him to stop whining and just devour the infection. Zhou Yi forces himself to swallow, and his system immediately starts processing the spores, granting him resistance. The captain just smirks, telekinetically arming herself with more scalpels and asking if the monster is insulting itself. She unleashes a storm of blades, calling it a coward that can only hide behind hostages. Just as she planned, the creature grabs the remaining researchers, thinking her attack is now useless. But she just grins, her hand glowing with purple energy, and asks if it's really sure about that. Her energy blades curve in midair, expertly slicing the monster's tentacles without harming the hostages. The monster is dumbfounded as the captain's blades expertly weave past the hostages and slice its tentacles. It lets out a pained roar as dozens of scalpels embed themselves deep into its flesh. She smirks, having confirmed her theory. Its real body is weak, which is why it needs hosts to protect itself. But the monster pulls a truly despicable move, impaling its own hostages with its tentacles out of pure spite. The captain is completely blindsided, never expecting the creature to sacrifice its only defense. It then reveals its true power, explaining that any damage it takes can simply be transferred to others, healing its own wounds instantly. She can only curse under her breath, realizing this situation just got infinitely more complicated. The monster then points at her, mockingly asking if she got caught in its trap too. Before she can react, a grotesque, red-veined hand bursts straight out of her own chest. She looks down in sheer terror, realizing her own body has turned against her, and she's lost all control. The captain screams in agony as the monster's spores try to take over her body. The creature gloats, thinking it's won and she has no chance to cleanse the infection. But suddenly, the monster is left completely dumbfounded by what it sees. Through the pain, the captain lets out a smirk, as if everything is going according to plan. She reveals that it's a good thing she was the one caught, because any of her teammates would be toast by now. Turns out, Her unique ability is a type of spider silk that can control an enemy's body, and in a clutch move, she reveals it can also be used to puppet her own body, overriding the infection. She masterfully manipulates the grotesque hand that burst from her chest, turning it into her own weapon. With a flick of her wrist, she forms a razor-sharp blade from her energy threads. In a flash of purple light, she slices clean through the monster's appendage, severing its control. The captain smirks, mocking the monster that it took so little effort to break free from its grasp. But the monster isn't worried, warning her that if she keeps struggling, she'll just bleed out and be useless. He then reveals his trump card, 2 infected researchers, and threatens to kill them if she runs, suggesting they escape together. The captain just scoffs, telling the beast that she's not leaving until she's put him in the ground for good. Suddenly, the monster's attention is drawn to our boy, Zhou Yi, who's being crushed by its tentacles. The creature is completely dumbfounded, realizing its mind control infection isn't working on him at all. Annoyed by this anomaly, the monster decides to just erase him, firing a massive energy beam. Zhou Yi sees the attack coming and knows he's a dead man. There's absolutely no way to dodge it. But just as the beam is about to connect, mysterious purple threads suddenly wrap around his body. In a clutch save, the squad captain yanks him out of the blast's path with her energy silk. The grotesque monster seethes with rage, dumbfounded that its kill shot completely missed its target. With a sharp tug, the captain yanks our boy through the air, away from the smoldering crater. Zhou Yi lands on the ground, winded but alive, and immediately starts thanking her for saving his life. He's completely blushing, looking up at his savior, and calling her a kind lady with a goofy smile. The captain, however, is not impressed, looking down at him from a rather compromising angle. She grabs him by the collar, accusing him of being a shameless pervert, but he just insists he's not one of the bad guys. Now, on their feet, she explains that since Hez immune to the monster's control, they have 2 options. She can either hold the line and sacrifice herself while he escapes, or they can both die right here. But Zhou Yi isn't about to accept those trash-tier choices. A new resolve hardens in his eyes. He stands tall, looks her dead in the eye, and declares that he's choosing option C. The squad captain is completely dumbfounded, demanding to know what the hell option C even is. Our boy just grins, proposing they team up and blow that ugly mushroom monster to bits together. She's a little impressed but mostly skeptical, asking why he's so eager to throw his life away. Zhou Yi's expression turns dead serious, his resolve unwavering as she watches him. A painful memory flashes back the moment his old crew left him behind to die. He remembers reaching out helplessly as his so-called teammates ran for their lives. The sight of their cowardice is seared into his mind forever. Back in the present, he declares that he despises cowards who abandon their allies more than the monsters themselves. The captain scoffs at his brave little speech, wondering if this guy is a hero or just a complete idiot. But our boy's inner monologue reveals his true angle. He knows the monster's weakness and plans to use this win to secure a cushy spot in the extermination squad. The monster scoffs, finding it pathetic that humans still try to show off even when facing death. With a roar, it unleashes a storm of fleshy tentacles, aiming to crush both of them in one go. But our boy has a plan, yelling at the captain to use her body control ability on him since he's got the guts but none of the skill. The captain agrees to the insane proposal, warning him that she can't guarantee his safety in this reckless gambit. With a flash of purple energy, her spider silk-like threads shoot out and pierce right into Zhou Yi's body. A wicked grin spreads across her face as she takes the reins, feeling his cockroach-like resilience flow through her control. Now a living puppet, Zhou Yi bolts forward with inhuman speed, the captain piloting him directly towards the beast. But the monster has a twisted defense, using the infected researchers as a living shield and taunting him to get through. The monster is left dumbfounded as the captain masterfully maneuvers Zhou Yi through the gaps between the puppets. In a blur of motion, our boy closes the distance and slams a devastating blow into the monster's human shield. The lead researcher can only scream as Zhou Yi, moving with unnatural speed, zips right past her. From the backlines, the captain masterfully pulls the strings, her only thought being to crush this abomination. He slides across the fleshy ground, effortlessly dodging another one of the monster's living projectiles. The captain makes him dance through the chaos, turning the gruesome battlefield into her personal puppet show. The monster is stunned, realizing that its target is somehow moving even faster than before. It finally clicks for the beast, this isn't the prisoner's own power. That woman is controlling him. The captain lets out a smug grin, thinking the monster might have a few brain cells after all for figuring it out. Having finally broken through the meat shield defense, our boy is launched directly at the monster's core. All of Zhou Yi's own will and rage surge into a single, primal scream as he's thrown forward. His fist sinks deep into the creature's flesh, but the monster just scoffs, confident he's too weak to break its defense. But just as the monster scoffs, a system window flashes. A new trait has just been activated. Turns out it's a doubleheader. Elastic muscles and corrosive mucus now coat his fist in a sizzling green acid. The punch rips through the beast's chest, blowing a massive, gory hole straight through its core. It lets out a blood-curdling scream as the acid immediately starts melting its flesh from the inside. Even the captain is dumbfounded, realizing her little puppet was hiding some serious abilities from her. The monster's body begins to dissolve and drip away, the corrosion too potent for its regeneration to handle. It stumbles back in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend the sheer power behind that single attack. For a moment, a flicker of our boy's true self shines through with a look of cold satisfaction. The monster desperately tries to use its ultimate skill, thinking it can just transfer the fatal damage away. But when it looks down, it's met with confusion for some reason. Its trump card isn't working at all. The monster is in a full-blown panic, realizing its regeneration has been completely shut down. Turns out, the squad captain was one step ahead the entire time. With a smirk, she reveals she already extracted all his parasitic spores from the researchers he'd infected. She crushes the pulsating mass in her hand, completely severing his only escape route. Her attention then snaps back to our boy, her eyes glowing as she wonders how fun it'll be to slice him up. Defeated, the monster's body begins to crack and crumble into nothingness. But it has one last trump card, detonating one of its massive, floating head bombs from above. The entire prison floor is showered in a gruesome rain of blood and gore. Both the captain and Zhou Yi are caught completely off guard by the sudden explosion. They watch in disbelief as all that blood starts gathering, flowing back into the monster's dissolving body. From the gory mess, a horrifying new form begins to rise, its single eye glowing with pure malice. Both the captain and our boy are dumbfounded, realizing this fight is far from over. The blood pools together, bubbling and twisting as it reforms the monster's body from scratch. It towers over them, a colossal beast born from the remains of its last-ditch explosion. The creature grins, boasting that they're the first humans to witness this form and better make it a good fight. Before the captain can even process the threat, the monster lunges forward with impossible speed. Its fist connects with terrifying force, sending her flying like a ragdoll down the entire length of the prison hall. She smashes into the far wall with a sickening crunch, the impact cratering the solid steel. Zhou Yi can only stare in disbelief. The woman who controlled him like a puppet was just one-shotted. Coughing up blood, the captain realizes with dread that this thing is on a completely different level now. Barely conscious, the captain can't even believe the sheer power difference. The monster gives her no time to recover, smashing into her with another bone-shattering blow. It drives her through another reinforced wall, like she's made of paper. Before she can even hit the ground, the creature is on her again, delivering a final, crushing stomp. She's left in a crumpled heap, bleeding from her mouth and completely incapacitated. The red beast stands over her, a testament to its overwhelming new strength. But it suddenly pauses, realizing that amidst the chaos, someone actually managed to land a hit on it. Its head snaps around, its glowing eyes locking onto Zhou Yi from across the hall, identifying him as the culprit. Our boy feels a cold sweat as he realizes he's just painted a massive target on his back. The monster doesn't even hesitate, launching itself at Zhou Yi like a crimson cannonball. It smashes into our boy's gut with enough force to liquefy his insides, sending a spray of blood everywhere. He's sent flying across the room, slamming into the ground so hard it craters beneath him. A system notification pops up, confirming the grim reality. Every bone is broken and his organs are severely damaged. His eyes roll back into his head. By all accounts, that single blow was a fatal one. But just as he's about to fade, his overpowered immortality trait kicks in, initiating a full-body regeneration. Bones begin to snap and grind back into place as his body forcibly stitches itself back together. Zhou Yi jolts back to consciousness, a silent scream in his mind as he realizes how close he just came to permanent death. Suddenly, the cockroach god appears, frantically warning him that if he takes another hit like that, not even it can save him. Taking the god's warning to heart, our boy Zhou Yi decides his only move is to play dead. From the ground, he can only watch and pray that the squad captain somehow has what it takes to win this. The monstrous bald prisoner stands over him, a terrifying silhouette of pure power. This beast scoffs, muttering to itself about how ridiculously weak its opponent is. Suddenly, a sharp sound catches its attention, and it turns just in time to see what's coming. The squad captain flies in with a desperate, all-or-nothing kick aimed right at its head. But the monster just casually snatches her leg out of the air, completely stopping her momentum. She's utterly dumbfounded, unable to process how her final, most powerful attack was just no-sold. With a wicked grin, the creature tightens its grip and prepares to slam her into the ground. With zero effort, the monster ragdolls the squad captain, smashing her into the wall with brutal force. The impact is so immense it shatters the reinforced wall, leaving a massive crater. She's left pinned and bleeding, trapped by some kind of sticky white substance. The bald prisoner scoffs, pointing out how pathetic it was that she tried to tie him up with her silk ability. He casually rips her free and tosses her into the air, complaining about how uncomfortable the silk feels. As she falls helplessly, the creature winds up for a devastating punch, ready to end this. The blow connects with the force of a freight train, sending her flying back into the wall. She's slammed against the concrete, her own silk-like powers now pinning her in place. Slumped on the ground, she realizes in horror that both of her legs are completely broken. Coughing up blood, the squad captain grits her teeth. Her legs may be useless, but she can still fight with her arms. Our boy Zhou Yi, who's been playing dead, finally opens his eyes to see the absolute carnage. He's dumbfounded. If even Vice Captain Eileen of the elite extermination squad was defeated, their situation is hopeless. With a surge of desperation, he starts crawling, calling out to someone nearby. He reaches the unconscious researcher, pleading with her to tell the Vice Captain to unleash her full power. But as he begs, her hand falls open, revealing a strange, glowing red crystal. Zhou Yi freezes, his eyes locking onto the mysterious object. Realizing no one else is coming to save them, he makes a split-second decision and takes the crystal for himself. A grim look of determination flashes across his face. He's got a new plan. Staring at the massive monster between him and the fallen squad captain, our boy panics, realizing this is an impossible mission. Suddenly, the cockroach god appears, telling him there's a slim chance if he pushes his elastic muscles trait to its absolute limit. Zhou Yi's hope is immediately crushed when the cockroach god reveals the plan's success rate is a trash tier 10%. The divine being lays it out cold. It's either a 10% chance to live, or a 100% chance to die, doing nothing. With no other choice, Zhou Yi's face hardens with grim resolve. He activates his elastic muscles trait, his body coiling like a spring ready to snap. With a desperate roar, he explodes forward, a blue and white blur rocketing across the floor. The hulking red monster turns its head, seemingly unfazed by the tiny insect charging its way. But the cockroach god screams a warning. The monster is faster than expected, and his odds just drop to 5%, but our boy is already committed. Our boy rockets forward. A desperate blur of motion aims straight at the crimson behemoth. The cockroach god screams that his odds have tanked to 1%, but Zhou Yi is all in, believing he's got this. His charge comes to a dead stop as the monster effortlessly snatches him out of the air by the head. The creature's glowing eyes narrow, silently mocking him for such a pathetic attempt. With a single, brutal motion, it slams Zhou Yi into the floor as the cockroach god declares the success rate is now 0. He's left sprawled in a crater, covered in his own corrosive mucus, and utterly defeated. The monster looms over him, raising its massive foot to stomp our boy into a bloody paste. But even beaten and broken, a defiant fire burns in Zhou Yi's eyes. He refuses to accept a 0% chance. As the foot descends, his hand shoots out, desperately trying to catch the monster's falling core. The monster's foot smashes down, but somehow, it's stopped dead in its tracks just inches from crushing our boy. It scoffs internally, thinking Zhou Yi's resistance is utterly pathetic. But a split second later, it realizes something is terribly wrong. Its foot won't budge. Looking down, it sees strange purple threads of energy have wrapped around its leg, holding it fast. The monster immediately recognizes the technique. It's the spider silk ability from that woman. It turns out Zhou Yi's desperate gambit was to pass the magic crystal to the squad captain all along. Now, back on her feet and radiating power, she sarcastically remarks how touched she is by his sacrifice. Her hands morph into deadly energy claws as she prepares to enter the fray. The once unstoppable monster is now completely bound and helpless, caught in her web. With a flick of her wrist, the squad captain yanks the monster off its feet, slamming it into the ground. She channels all her remaining energy, forming a massive, razor-sharp blade from her purple power. Leaping onto the restrained beast, she prepares to deliver the final blow with her ultimate technique, the spider snowblade. With a furious roar, she brings the weapon down, screaming for the monster to finally die. But to her utter shock, the blade stops dead, caught just inches from the monster's neck. The creature scoffs, remarking that even with borrowed power, humans are still pathetically weak. With a simple clench of its fist, the monster shatters her ultimate weapon into a million pieces. Before she can even react, its hand is around her throat, lifting her effortlessly into the air. In a final, brutal move, the monster impales her clean through the chest, leaving her for dead. From across the hall, our boy Zhou Yi can only watch in horror as the squad captain is defeated. The monster holds her up like a broken doll, a testament to its overwhelming power. Zhou Yi grits his teeth, realizing that this is it, this is the end for all of them. With a final, guttural command to die, the monster rears back to finish her off for good. But in a flash of movement and a spray of blood, something impossible happens. The monster looks down, utterly dumbfounded, to see its own arm has been sliced clean off. Both the creature and Zhou Yi are left completely stunned, wondering what just happened. Turns out, a new challenger has entered the ring, a massive armored warrior, now holding the unconscious captain. He lands with 2 other soldiers, a whole squad appearing out of nowhere to confront the beast. The monster roars, demanding to know who these people are, as the elite-looking trio stands ready for battle. Another member of the rescue squad, a woman with glasses, rushes over to a fallen researcher. She quickly assesses the situation, realizing the woman's organs, bones, and flesh are completely mangled. Introducing herself as Captain Haley of Squad 10, She knows she has to start treatment immediately. Meanwhile, Captain Philo of Squad 2 promises the unconscious captain in his arms that no monster will get past him. The leader of the group, Chief Commander Cory Virion, steps up, amused that this monster can actually talk. Philo warns his commander to be careful, insisting that this particular monster is on another level. But Cory just flashes a confident smile, telling him not to worry because he's a different breed too. Back with the medic, Haley snaps at them to shut up, needing absolute silence for the delicate procedure. She channels her power into a glowing green crystal, preparing her ultimate healing art. With a burst of light, she unleashes a runic revival, a technique that brings the near-dead back to life. The healing light envelops not just the captain, but the injured lead researcher as well. Turns out, the spell is massive, even catching the stoic Captain Philo in its gentle embrace. Our boy, Zhou Yi, is just as dumbfounded, finding himself cradled by the strange energy. The entire area blooms with giant, fleshy flowers, each one holding a person in need of healing. For Zhou Yi, the exhaustion melts away. He thinks it feels as warm and comforting as a hot spring. Hez so drained from everything that he's about to finally pass out and get some rest. But suddenly, the cockroach god zips in, jabbing him with an adrenaline shot and yelling that it's supposed to burn. Haley is completely baffled, wondering why her gentle healing art is causing someone to scream in agony. The tiny god tells Zhou Yi he's a lucky kid and orders him to stay awake to witness the peak power of this era. The scene shifts to Chief Commander Cory, who now stands ready to face the enraged monster head-on. Cory calmly introduces himself as the Chief Commander, figuring since the beast can talk, maybe they can reason with it. But the monster just scoffs, snarling that it doesn't waste time talking to its food. Before Cory can even react, a massive cable above them snaps loose with a loud twang. It's not just a cable though, it's coated in the same grotesque red flesh as the monster. Our boy Cory doesn't even flinch, just looks up to analyze this trash-tier ambush attempt. Suddenly, the entire ceiling begins to drip and bleed, as if the whole room is coming alive. The monster boasts that it has already devoured all the other captives, absorbing their power. With a roar, it declares that the entire extermination squad will die right here, right now. A tidal wave of crimson flesh and tentacles surges forward, swallowing Cory in an instant. From his healing pod, Zhou Yi can only watch in horror, screaming that they're surrounded by monsters. But just as the fleshy wave is about to hit, the big guy Philo unleashes a powerful gust of wind. He spins like a top, whipping up a massive cyclone that engulfs the entire area. The monster's crimson tendrils are instantly shredded to bits as they slam into the gale force winds. Turns out, the attack wasn't just for offense. It created a perfect defensive barrier around Haley. From his perch, Zhou Yi can only stare, completely dumbfounded by the sheer scale of this power. The monster's fleshy assault is useless, getting torn apart by the cyclone barrier before it can even get close. Philo grits his teeth, telling Haley he can hold the line, but she's got to handle the blood infection herself. With a smirk, she just calls the monster trash and says she'll take care of it, no problem. Zhou Yi finally understands. This is the overwhelming power of a captain, level awakener. Suddenly, Cory appears, and the monster realizes its plan worked. It stalled 2 captains, and now it can finally deal with him. Seeing its target, the monster decides to go all out, absorbing all the surrounding blood energy. It lets out a horrifying scream as its body contorts and expands, undergoing another transformation. In a flash, it evolves into its final form, a massive, 3-headed demonic titan, roaring down at Cory. From the sidelines, our boy Zhou Yi is just dumbfounded, thinking it's completely unfair for a monster to have a 3-stage transformation. But Cory is utterly unfazed, even sarcastically complaining that he's jealous monsters can get big so easily. Enraged, the beast throws a punch with enough force to shatter the entire floor. Cory just smirks, dodging the devastating blow with impossible speed. He reappears without a scratch, casually taunting the monster that had almost had him. The beast roars in pure fury, realizing it just got played by this cocky swordsman. As the monster swings its massive arm for another strike, Cory leaps into the air, ready to counter. With incredible agility, Cory slides right under the monster's colossal fist. He flips over the attack, continuing to make a complete fool out of the beast. The monster is absolutely seething, screaming that he's just an annoying bug. It suddenly morphs its arm into a whip, lashing out to catch him mid-air. The attack connects, but Cory manages to block it, looking genuinely surprised for the first time. The monster roars in triumph, thinking it's finally got him cornered. But that was a big mistake. Cory's expression hardens as he finally draws his sword. In a flash, the air is filled with a blinding flurry of golden sword strikes. He lands back on the ground, calm and composed as if nothing happened. Behind him, the once mighty demon crumbles into a dozen cleanly sliced pieces. The monster's mind goes blank, unable to process how it was so utterly defeated. But Cory isn't finished. With a simple gesture, he triggers the final part of his attack. The monster's remains are instantly vaporized, leaving nothing but a shower of blood. Our boy just smirks, completely unfazed by the gruesome display he just created. Turns out, the massive demon was just a shell. Its true form is a tiny, pathetic-looking jellyfish creature. With a flick of his wrist, Corey expertly scoops the little monster out of the air. He neatly traps it in a containment vial, laughing triumphantly. The swordsman celebrates like a kid, ecstatic that he actually caught the thing alive. He excitedly asks his teammates if he gets to name the first talking monster in history. But Haley is having none of it, grabbing him and yelling that he needs to think about how they'll explain this destroyed facility to the council. As the rescue team departs, our boy watches them, thinking his boss is a complete idiot. He's left dumbfounded by their insane power, and the cockroach god reminds him of the massive gap in their strength. The scene suddenly shifts to a series of pristine, modern doors. We find ourselves inside a clean, well-kept apartment, a world away from the prison. Zhou Yi slowly regains consciousness, groggily wondering where on earth he is. He's shocked to find himself submerged in a bathtub filled with a glowing, rejuvenating liquid. Just as he's processing this, he hears the sound of a shower running right beside him. His eyes widen as he sees the unmistakable silhouette of a woman through the shower curtain. Completely flustered and blushing, he tries to figure out what the hell is going on. The curtain slides open, revealing the squad captain, who calmly asks if he's finally awake. She casually explains that with the prison trashed, she had no choice but to bring him to her home for supervision. Our boy is absolutely losing his mind, wondering why this whole situation had to involve them being naked together. Eileen just tells him to stop being shy, claiming the hot water is only available now, so they had to share. She then properly introduces herself as Eileen, vice captain of Squad 1, and asks for his name. Zhou Yi, blushing furiously, stammers that he thinks his name is Zhou Yi, clearly still rattled by everything. Without missing a beat, she tells him to scoot over and dips her foot into the healing water. A huge splash erupts as she climbs into the tub. He's left completely dumbfounded as Eileen settles in right in front of him. She then turns around, ordering him to lie down so she can properly inspect his wounds from the battle. The moment her hand touches his back, our boy's brain just completely short-circuits. Our boy is screaming internally, wondering if this woman has any concept of personal space. Eileen, however, is just impressed, noting that his back has healed perfectly without a single scar. She gives him a good slap on the back, complimenting his insane regeneration, which sends him into another fit of blushing. Suddenly, the cockroach god pops up with a system alert about his spiking vitals, asking if it should activate reproduction mode. Trying to distract her, Zhou Yi points to his chest, mentioning a scar from a brutal monster that even the captain's healing couldn't fix. But as he tries to show her, the cockroach god starts a 5-second countdown to activate the dreaded mode. The countdown continues as our boy thrashes in the water, his panic reaching its absolute peak. With no other choice, he bolts out of the bathroom, yelling that he's got to go and she can have the tub to herself. Eileen is left completely alone and dumbfounded, wondering what on earth just happened. Meanwhile, Zhou Yi is hiding out in the living room, panting and trying to get himself under control. He curses the system, thinking he would have died of pure embarrassment if he'd stayed in there a second longer. Just then, a news report on the TV catches his eye, detailing spatial fluctuations near Minghai City. His blood runs cold as he realizes the attacked outpost shown on screen is the very place he used to live. The reporter continues, explaining that by the time the extermination squad arrived, the entire place was already abandoned. A chilling thought hits him. If he hadn't left when he did, he'd be just as dead as everyone else. As the broadcast warns citizens about otherworldly portals, our boy sits there, completely lost in his dark thoughts. But the cockroach god pops up, telling him to quit overthinking because it has some seriously good news. Turns out, his squashed buddy, Little Fatty, has been fully revived as a powerful Imperial Guard. Zhou Yi is completely dumbfounded, wondering what on earth an Imperial Guard even is. The system explains that from now on, Little Fatty is immortal and will always return as long as our boy is alive. Our boy thinks an immortal cockroach sounds way too overpowered, but he's skeptical about how it's supposed to be a guard. The cockroach god chimes in, explaining that Little Fatty can also level up and, for now, can share his vision. Intrigued by the possibilities, Zhou Yi doesn't hesitate to slam the summon button on his system screen. A bright blue light erupts in the room as the summoning sequence begins. The light quickly materializes, taking the familiar shape of his fallen comrade. And just like that, Little Fatty is back from the dead, ecstatically calling out to his big bro. The newly revived cockroach flies right into Zhou Yi's personal space, clearly overjoyed to see him again. But then he bluntly says his big bro looks kinda ugly now like a human, leaving Zhou Yi completely dumbfounded. The cockroach god tells him to get over it and test the new vision-syncing ability by commanding the little guy to fly. With a flick, Little Fatty zips past his head, ready for his first scouting mission as an immortal guard. But instead of scouting the building, the little guy immediately drills under the nearest door. He bursts into a bathroom, only to find the stone-cold squad captain, Eileen, taking a bath. Our boy Zhou Yi, seeing everything through the vision sync, absolutely loses it, screaming for Fatty to get out. The little roach just cheekily implies he knew his big bro secretly wanted to peek in. Eileen, however, is not amused in the slightest, her eyes flaring with murderous intent. With a casual flick of her finger, a thin strand of purple energy shoots out. The energy whip instantly wraps around Fatty, trapping the poor guy mid-air. She constricts her power, and the immortal guard just melts into a pile of disgusting goo. Back in his room, Zhou Yi is completely dumbfounded, his mind short-circuiting from the horror he just saw. Then the psychic backlash hits him like a freight train, and blood erupts from his eyes as he feels Fatty's agonizing death. The cockroach god casually explains that he forgot to mention a tiny detail. If a shared sense unit dies, our boy suffers the backlash. The next day, after recovering from the ordeal, Zhou Yi waits outside what looks like an agency building. Suddenly, a test report is slammed down on the table in front of him. It's Eileen, and she informs him that his test results came back completely normal. Zhou Yi looks at the folder, a little stunned by the news. With a smug look, she tells him he's free to go, clearly trying to get rid of him. But our boy doesn't move, his mind hardened by the horrors he witnessed. He places his hand firmly on the report, having made a life-changing decision. Looking her dead in the eye, he declares that he wants to join the extermination squad. Eileen is completely caught off guard, questioning if he's serious since their squad's mortality rate is sky-high. But Zhou Yi fires back, asking if she really thinks the survival rate for normal people is any better in this monster-infested world. He declares that he's an awakener who fought by her side, his record is clean, and he wants a straight answer. Eileen just stares, his raw determination clearly getting through to her. She finally lays out the facts. The extermination squad's selection tournament is in just 7 days. And to make matters worse, she warns him that this year's competition is rumored to be the toughest in history. Our boy doesn't even flinch, his gaze hardening with resolve. He decides to play his trump card, reminding her of the life-saving debt she owes him. With her back turned, she simply tells him to stand up. A smirk plays on her lips as she admits she admires his shameless persistence, agreeing to give him a shot at some special training. But from the shadows, a mysterious man is watching their entire exchange with keen interest. Turns out, that mysterious man is Chief Commander Cory Virion, and he's ordering a researcher to forge our boy's medical report. The poor researcher is sweating bullets, revealing that Zhou Yi's gene test results showed something distinctly not human. With a sly grin, Cory decides this little secret is something they'll keep under wraps for now. Meanwhile, our boy arrives for his so-called special training. He's brought to a high-tech training base, standing before a massive sealed gate labeled Abyss Entrance. Zhou Yi is completely dumbfounded as he and a few other recruits are gathered before the ominous portal. He immediately confronts Eileen, absolutely losing his mind that her idea of training is to just throw him into an abyss. Our boy knows exactly what that means. A death sentence against monsters far stronger than anything on the surface. To make matters worse, he looks around and realizes his backup is just 4 other teenagers who look barely out of school. He locks eyes with 2 of his new teammates, Justin and Lu Yao, feeling utterly hopeless about his chances. He's then introduced to the last 2 members of this suicide squad, the calm, collected Sukai and a wild-looking kid named Song Tao. Ignoring his panic, Eileen begins her lecture, explaining that each abyss is a portal to another world. She lays out the danger levels, ranked from a pathetic E-class all the way up to a world-ending S-class. With a smirk, she gestures to the gate and says this one has already been scouted, though that's not much comfort. She casually walks over to a console and begins the activation sequence with her sharp, claw-like fingers. As she works, she explains their job is to dive in, kill monsters, and stop these other worlds from invading theirs. Turns out, these abysses are just tunnels left behind by giant worms from some great cataclysm in the past. With a final touch, the massive gate begins to hum and glow with an intense, otherworldly light. A vortex of energy erupts as the portal fully opens, and Eileen just stands there like it's a gentle breeze. She then turns to the team and appoints Justin as the leader, since he's apparently the only one with any experience. Justin wastes no time, shouting his acceptance of the leadership role with full confidence. With that settled, the team steps through the portal into a world of impossibly colossal trees. They've arrived in the silent dark jungle, a supposedly trash-tier E-class abyss meant for training. The sheer scale of the place is breathtaking, with the team looking like ants at the bottom of a canyon made of wood. Our boy Zhou Yi is completely dumbfounded, barely able to process that this is what an abyss looks like. His shock quickly turns to terror as he spots a freakish monkey with a snake for a tail lurking in the branches. Before he can even process that, the creature lunges towards Justin, who stands his ground, ready for a fight. But the horrors don't stop there, as Zhou Yi turns to see a spider the size of a small car crawling out of the shadows. He looks up, completely overwhelmed by the massive scale of the forest, feeling utterly insignificant. The rest of the team is just as silent, realizing that stepping through that gate was like being born into a whole new, terrifying world. As the team pushes deeper into the eerie jungle, Justin takes the lead, looking like a seasoned pro. He glances back over his shoulder, his eyes locking onto our boy with a stern expression. Without warning, He yanks Zhou Yi's bag, bringing him to a dead stop. Justin lays down the law, telling him he's just a porter and is forbidden from fighting any monsters. Zhou Yi is completely baffled by the sudden hostility. Turns out, Justin is just seething with jealousy, convinced our boy only got here by making a move on his goddess, Eileen. Zhou Yi, completely misreading the room, just yanks his bag back with a dark look on his face. This just infuriates Justin more, who thinks Zhou Yi is actually refusing the order. But our boy is secretly thrilled. He thinks this is the perfect deal since he gets to stay safe and just carry their stuff. Justin is left utterly speechless, completely dumbfounded by Zhou Yi's cheerful acceptance of the demotion. Our boy is absolutely beaming, internally celebrating that he's totally safe from any danger. Justin, however, is just staring at him, wondering if this kid is completely insane. Fully embracing his new role, Zhou Yi enthusiastically starts asking everyone for their backpacks. He even offers to take Lu Yao's bag, who just looks at him, slightly bewildered by his eagerness. She quickly shuts him down, telling him there's no need since she can handle her own gear. Now loaded down like a pack mule, Zhou Yi happily falls to the back of the group. He puts on a serious face, pretending to wonder why a normal guy like him is forbidden from fighting. Suddenly, the forest erupts as a pack of beast-like monsters ambushes the party. Philo immediately steps up to the plate, his eyes glowing as he unleashes a storm of energy. He moves like a blur, effortlessly tearing through the monsters and slicing them to ribbons. From the back, our boy Zhou Yi observes how this world works. Awakeners absorb monster abilities through their crystal weapons. It's just like a video game. The more they kill, like Lu Yao effortlessly dispatching a few beasts, the faster they level up, just as Justin carves his way through another monster. But this method is a grind, and Zhou Yi notes that even the best awakeners get totally gassed from constant fighting. After slaying over 300 monsters, an exhausted Justin finally gets the notification that he's leveled up. Watching from a distance, Zhou Yi just smirks, thinking to himself that he's simply built different. While the others are fighting for their lives, our boy is calmly setting up for a meal. He casually carves up the fresh monster meat he's gathered from the battlefield. After cooking it over a fire, he takes a bite, savoring his hard-earned meal. A system window pops up, granting him a new trait, and he realizes he doesn't need to kill monsters, he just needs to eat them. It hits him. By eating a piece of a monster, he can steal its traits. He keeps chowing down, gaining and boosting abilities like toxic resistance and jungle adaptation. After his feast, he pats his full stomach, having also acquired sunlight affinity. With a loud burp, our boy kicks back, completely satisfied and surrounded by bones. Hez made up his mind. Hell joined the extermination squad's logistics team to get strong by just eating. He throws his hands up in praise of the cockroach god for this absolute cheat-tier ability. Just then, Justin and his exhausted party stumble upon the bizarre scene, completely speechless. They're all dumbfounded, thinking how this guy is having a buffet while they're fighting for their lives. But their confusion is cut short, as a strange sound echoes from the silent, dark jungle. Something massive is tearing through the trees, heading straight for them at an insane speed. A monstrous beast, the jungle heavy-horned beast, smashes through the trees, radiating pure power. It immediately clashes with another apex predator, the king of the snake-tailed monkeys. The Monkey King roars, trying to stand its ground, but it's clearly outmatched. In a single, brutal charge, the horned beast gores the Monkey King, sending it flying in a shower of blood. Our boy, Zhou Yi, watches from the bushes, completely stunned by the raw display of power. Justin realizes this is the Abyss's final boss, a monster that just one-shot a near-night-level creature like it was nothing. Despite the insane power gap, Justin tries to rally his rookie team, claiming they can win if they just stick to his plan. But Zhou Yi isn't buying it. He's just staring blankly, remembering a very different set of rules. A flashback hits him of his captain, Eileen, warning that if they act recklessly and get crippled, their insurance won't cover a thing. With that cold, hard logic in mind, our boy tells Justin that Eileen forbade fighting the boss, and he is absolutely out of there. Justin grabs our boy by the collar, calling him a loser and telling him to go guard the backpacks. Lu Yao watches the whole exchange, her face a mask of cold indifference. He then shoves a map at Zhou Yi, ordering him to stay put at a very specific location. Accepting his fate as the pack mule, Zhou Yi loads up and wishes the glory-hogging team good luck. The other two teammates, Su Kai and Song Tao, just exchange a nasty little smirk. As our boy walks away, Lu Yao asks Justin if the spot he marked is the same as their planned ambush point. Justin just grins like a psychopath, confirming her worst fears without a shred of guilt. His real plan is revealed. He's already stuffed the 4 backpacks Zhou Yi is carrying with high-grade explosives. He'll let the boss lock onto Zhou Yi, detonate the bombs, and then his team can just swoop in to finish off a weakened monster. Lu Yao is completely horrified, realizing her captain is willing to sacrifice a teammate just to clear the dungeon. Lu Yao desperately tries to stop her captain, but her plea falls on deaf ears. Justin's eyes glow with a menacing light as he warns her to cut the pity act, making it clear hell only let this slide once. The scene shifts to the seemingly peaceful forest where our boy has been sent. Zhou Yi arrives at the designated safe zone, completely oblivious that he's a walking time bomb. All of a sudden, the ground starts to shake violently beneath his feet. He naively thinks the tremors must be from his team's epic battle happening far away. As the rumbling gets louder, he stands up, trying to figure out where the hell it's coming from. A horrifying realization dawns on him. The cataclysmic noise isn't distant at all, it's heading straight for him. Something tears through the tree line at an impossible speed, snapping massive trees in its path. It's a whole damn swarm of beast monsters, and they're all beelining it right for him. Our boy is left dumbfounded, as a pack of smaller monsters sprints right past him, completely ignoring his presence. Before he can process it, a colossal blur of white armor and raw power smashes through the forest. He whips his head around just in time to see the source of the stampede, and his blood runs cold. A monstrous, rhino-like beast erupts from the ground beneath him, its armored head slamming into him with bone-shattering force. He's launched into the air like a ragdoll as the beast continues its unstoppable charge, plowing through a massive tree. The impact is so brutal he coughs up a lungful of blood mid-flight, his body already giving out. He crashes through another thick tree, the wood exploding around him as his momentum carries him onward. His flight finally ends as he smashes hard against a solid rock face, the impact echoing through the clearing. Slumped and broken, he looks up to see the beast, recognizing it as the area's boss. He clutches his wounds in despair, realizing his own team sent him here to be slaughtered by the region's apex predator. Just as Hez fading, the cockroach god system kicks in, detecting a fatal injury and initiating emergency repairs. But before he can even process what's happening, a flaming arrow streaks through the air. It slams into the ground right beside the beast, and our boy is utterly dumbfounded by the sudden attack. He glances down, and his heart stops. The arrow wasn't aimed at the monster, but at the backpacks he was carrying. The horrifying realization hits him like a truck. Those weren't supplies, they were packed with high-grade explosives. A colossal explosion rips through the forest, engulfing both him and the beast in a pillar of fire. Watching from a cliffside, his supposed teammates observe the carnage, with their captain Justin laughing his head off. He cackles about how priceless our boy's final expression was, gloating that they killed 2 birds with 1 stone. But Lu Yao, the spear user, looks on in complete shock, disgusted by her captain's cruelty. Suddenly, her eyes go wide as she spots something in the blast radius, screaming for her captain to look. Justin turns, completely baffled by her outburst, wondering what on earth she's talking about. But then, something shoots out from the epicenter of the blast at an impossible speed. A figure emerges from the smoke, dragging something massive and purple behind it. The smoke clears to reveal our boy, Zhou Yi, his eyes glowing with pure, unadulterated rage. Justin's smug grin vanishes, replaced by sheer disbelief as he struggles to comprehend the scene. Down below, Zhou Yi is alive, but has been impaled clean through the chest by the beast's colossal horn. With a roar of defiance, he grabs the horn and rips the damn thing right out of his own body. In a flash, the horrifying wound seals itself shut as his regeneration kicks into overdrive. He glares up at the traitors, his expression making it clear he thinks their little plan was pathetic. Then, in an absolute power move, he lifts the entire corpse of the multi-ton beast over his head. Justin is left completely dumbfounded, his face twisting from shock into pure rage. With a furious roar, Zhou Yi hurls the entire beast's corpse at them, bellowing that he's not so easy to kill. The multi-ton projectile smashes into the cliffside, sending an explosion of rock and debris everywhere. Song Tao gets caught in the blast, unable to react in time as the ground gives way. A hand weakly reaches out from the dust as he pathetically calls out for his captain. He's been completely pinned under the beast's massive leg, bleeding out and begging for someone to save him. Justin and Sukai just stare down at their trapped teammate, their expressions ice cold. Justin ruthlessly declares that Song Tao is done for, ordering his partner to forget the dead weight and focus on Zhou Yi. Ignoring Song Tao's desperate pleas, he savagely drives his sword through the beast's leg, sealing his teammate's fate. With his loose end tied up, Justin glares at our boy, ready to unleash his flesh-bursting arrows. But our boy has a trick up his sleeve, roaring as he uses his own power to expand the arrows inside the beast. The flesh-bursting arrows detonate from within, turning the massive corpse into a pincushion of gore. The beast's dead eye seems to flicker in phantom agony from the internal assault. It lets out one final, guttural roar as its body is shredded by the brutal explosion. Justin is absolutely dumbfounded, screaming at his teammates to stop gawking and attack now. Sukai immediately follows orders, unleashing a raging torrent of fire from his hands. The fiery vortex slams directly into the already mangled beast, engulfing it in flames. Lu Yao joins the fray, gathering crackling blue energy for her own powerful assault. She unleashes a massive bolt of lightning from below, electrocuting the creature's entire body. Caught between the fire and lightning, the beast's corpse is completely obliterated in a spectacular show of force. Justin roars in victory, believing the beast is just one hit away from being finished. He scoffs internally, thinking this so-called boss was trashed here. If that other idiot could throw it around, it was never a real threat. Screaming for the beast to die, he charges in with his massive sword for the final, glorious kill. But instead of crumbling, the beast's eye flares with a sinister, otherworldly glow. The creature lets out a terrifying roar, not of pain, but of power, as it begins absorbing all the elemental energy. Justin's cocky expression shatters into one of pure, dumbfounded shock. All the fire and lightning coalesce into the beast's horn, supercharging it beyond belief. Lu Yao is the first to realize their fatal error, screaming that the beast absorbed their attacks and to stop using elements. It turns out the more they hit it, the stronger it gets, and now it looms over them, reborn and more powerful than ever. All of Justin's arrogance drains away, replaced by the cold dread that they can't possibly win against this monster. The entire team is paralyzed with fear, staring down the monster they foolishly empowered. But Justin's terror quickly hardens into a cold, ugly determination. Out of nowhere, Sukai gets blasted from behind by a surprise attack. He turns in utter disbelief to see his own captain, Justin, was the one who struck him down. With his teammate now sprawled on the ground, Justin's betrayal is absolute. Lu Yao can only watch in horror, screaming his name, unable to process what's happening. Before she can even raise her spear, Justin is on her too, knocking her aside with a vicious blow. He scoffs that they were in the way, and might as well be useful as bait before they die. As he makes his escape, he has the audacity to tell them to be grateful for the chance to be decoys. The supercharged beast roars, looming over the two abandoned teammates, ready to claim its prize. The beast's massive jaw descends upon the helpless Sukai, ready to snap him in two. With a brutal stomp, it brings its full weight down on Lu Yao, turning the ground into a bloody crater. But the monster isn't done, raising its clawed hand to finish her off for good. Just as it strikes, a flash of golden light erupts, deflecting the fatal blow. Our boy Zhou Yi has arrived, single-handedly stopping the behemoth's rampage and saving the two abandoned hunters. Lu Yao, cradled in his arms, is completely dumbfounded, asking why he would only save her. Zhou Yi looks down at her, a flicker of a long-buried memory in his eyes. He reveals that back in the day, she was the only one who didn't treat him like dirt just because he was weak. He flashes back to his past life, remembering the bitter feeling of being used as cannon fodder. It was the same story even after he became a cockroach, always the weak ones sent to die for the stronger ones. He recalls a life of never provoking anyone, yet always being the one who was betrayed. In a world where only the strong control their fate, our boy makes a simple vow. He has to get stronger. His mind flashes back to the moment his old squad captain, Justin, abandoned him, begging for help. Justin was left as bait, pathetically pleading for his life before the monstrous jungle heavy-horned beast. Now, Zhou Yi coldly reminds the traitor of his own words from that day. He asks Justin if he remembers ordering everyone to stand down, leaving him to die. The treacherous captain is completely dumbfounded, realizing the man he left for dead has returned. Without another word, the beast's foot comes down, crushing Justin into a bloody pulp. With his past finally settled, Zhou Yi looks down at the woman in his arms. To keep his secret safe, he activates his sleep-inducing pollen, gently putting her to sleep. A system notification confirms the Tranquil Bloom's pollen is potent enough to knock someone out cold. With Lu Yao safely unconscious, our boy decides it's best to keep his monstrous side a secret for now. He turns his attention to the real problem, his eyes glowing with a predatory light. Now it's just him and the colossal jungle heavy-horned beast, a true final boss. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he declares this monster will be his stepping stone to greater power. The beast roars and charges forward, a purple juggernaut of pure destruction. But Zhou Yi isn't phased, activating a bizarre new trait, the tongue snap. His tongue shoots out like a grappling hook, latching onto a tree to swing him out of the beast's path. He thinks about all the traits he's absorbed on his journey. It's finally time to put them to good use. As he swings, he activates another ability, transforming his arm into a razor-sharp mantis scythe. He soars through the air, bringing the full force of his mantis scythe down on the beast's head. The impact echoes through the forest, but something feels off. His blade just scrapes uselessly against the monster's hide, failing to even leave a mark. Zhou Yi is dumbfounded. This thing's defense is on a whole other level, making his enhanced scythe feel like a toy. But a wicked glint in his eye shows he's already thinking of a new angle. He realizes that even if its outer shell has evolved into nigh impenetrable armor, every monster has a weak spot, and he's just spotted the beast's vulnerable abdomen. With a savage thrust, he plunges the scythe deep into its soft underbelly, drawing first blood. The colossal beast lets out a deafening roar of pure, unadulterated agony. A blood-soaked grin spreads across our boy's face. He knows this plan just might work. He tries to get back in close, aiming to widen the gash he just made. But the enraged beast responds instantly, swiping with its colossal claws in a blur of motion. The sheer force of the blow sends our boy flying backwards, completely outmatched. Hez launched through the dense forest, snapping thick trees like they're nothing. The impact is absolutely brutal, slamming him into the ground and creating a massive crater. He coughs up a sickening amount of blood, his body screaming in protest. Lying there broken, he realizes he completely underestimated its speed despite its massive size. To make matters worse, the beast's horn begins to glow, gathering a terrifying amount of energy. It then unleashes a devastating energy beam, carving a path of pure destruction toward him. Zhou Yi's eyes widen in sheer panic. There's absolutely nowhere left to run. The beam slams down with overwhelming force, engulfing the entire area in a blinding flash. A wave of pure destruction rips through the forest, leveling everything in its path. Once the light subsides, all that remains is a thick, choking cloud of dust and splintered wood. The beast looks on, confident that its target has been completely vaporized, but its eyes widen in utter disbelief at what it sees standing in the smoke. Our boy activated a new skill at the last second, encasing himself in a protective layer of trance skin. He smirks, having correctly guessed that the forest itself held the key to countering this monster's power. This wooden armor can tank the hits, but he knows it won't be enough without a proper finisher. As the beast stares, dumbfounded, a plan finally clicks into place for our boy. He activates his long arms trait, stretching his limb across the battlefield to reclaim his massive sword. With his sword back in hand, our boy knows this next strike will decide everything. He stomps his foot, channeling the power he absorbed from the forest itself. Suddenly, thick treant vines erupt from the ground beneath him, a brand new skill at his command. These aren't just any roots. They're a weapon treants use to ensnare their prey. The jungle heavy-horned beast is completely bound, unable to move a muscle. It roars in fury, but the vines are designed to trap any creature in the jungle, no matter how strong. Seeing his opening, our boy uses the beast's own horn as a platform to launch his final attack. With a furious battle cry, he prepares to bring the massive blade down and end this fight for good. But just as he strikes, the beast unleashes a terrifying shockwave of pure energy. Hes dumbfounded. It tore through the vines with brute force, and now there's absolutely no time to dodge. With no other choice, our boy activates his elastic muscles, pushing his body to the absolute limit to withstand the blow. The beast's horn slams into him with unimaginable force, sending him flying backwards. His massive sword, his only real weapon, is instantly shattered into a dozen pieces. He barely survives, digging 2 deep trenches in the earth as he grinds to a halt. Panting, he's left holding nothing but the broken hilt of his once mighty blade. But instead of despair, he just smirks and casually tosses the useless hilt aside. A cold, calculating look flashes in his eyes. This fight is far from over. The beast roars in triumph, charging forward to finish off its seemingly disarmed prey. But Zhou Yi calmly declares that the fight is already over. He's just acquired the perfect trait to end this. He lifts a broken shard of the beast's own horn to his lips, about to use his ultimate skill. Devour. He slams the horn into his mouth, and the system instantly confirms it. The heavy-horned beast's trait is now his. Without a moment's hesitation, our boy launches a razor-sharp projectile of his own, using the beast's power against it. The monster is utterly dumbfounded as the shard of its own horn smashes right back into its face. A massive explosion of energy rips through the forest, a deafening boom echoing for miles. When the light finally fades, the only sound is the heavy panting of the lone survivor. The entire area is a wasteland, with splintered trees and scorched earth marking the brutal battle's end. Zhou Yi is bleeding and exhausted, but a look of grim satisfaction is etched on his face. He's sitting on the colossal corpse of his enemy, having turned the tables in the most savage way possible. But his rest is cut short when a shimmering, ethereal key materializes right before his very eyes. The system chimes in, revealing his incredible reward. A key to a secret realm, a ticket to a whole new challenge. Our boy stares at the key, completely baffled by the concept of a secret realm. Meanwhile, the official report comes in. A training accident with multiple casualties, a total cover-up. The scene cuts to a hospital, where an enraged officer grabs Zhou Yi by his collar. He pins our boy to the wall, demanding to know what the hell really happened inside the abyss. The officer screams in his face, asking the million-dollar question, why is he the only one who made it out alive? Zhou Yi is panicking internally, realizing he can't just say he got lucky and solod the boss. It's too unbelievable. Suddenly, a hand clamps down on the officer's shoulder, stopping him cold. A new face appears. A vice captain who calmly asks if the military really suspects his new recruit. The vice captain smirks, sarcastically wondering if maybe he's the one they should be blaming for this whole mess. Zhou Yi just looks on, dumbfounded by this unexpected turn of events. The officer starts backpedaling fast, stammering that he just meant it's natural to be concerned about military-selected recruits. The vice captain gives him a dead-eyed stare, completely unimpressed by the pathetic excuse. He tells the officer to cut the crap, reminding him that nobody enters a dungeon expecting 0 casualties. With the situation handled, the vice captain turns to Zhou Yi and dismisses him with a smirk. Our boy is left completely baffled, his antennae twitching in confusion. Later, Zhou Yi finds a quiet spot on the roof to process everything that just happened. He wonders if the vice captain is deliberately covering for him, maybe because Eileen was the one who recommended him. Deciding it's not worth overthinking, he shifts his focus to what really matters now. He pulls out the golden key he got from the boss, wondering what this secret realm even is. Suddenly, the cockroach god appears, explaining that the key unlocks a hidden dimension inside the abyss. The cockroach god explains that this key is a super rare drop, not something humans are supposed to find. Our boy connects the dots, asking if this means he's got his own private dungeon just for power leveling. The god confirms it but warns him the monsters inside are a whole different breed of deadly, plus he'll face the original owner. He speculates it could be another intelligent guardian of the abyss, just like that creepy mushroom monster he fought before. Zhou Yi then notices a countdown timer and asks what the rush is all about. Turns out, the key is on a 2-4-hour timer before it poofs out of existence, so the god asks if he's man enough to go. Staring at the key, a look of pure determination washes over Zhou Yi's face. He stands up, declaring that of course he's going, but there's something he needs to take care of first. With a grim smirk, he acknowledges the very real possibility that he might die in there, and just like that, he's gone, ready to prepare for what might be his final battle. And the first thing on his to-do list before facing death? Boldly asking Eileen to go on a date with him. He finds her, immediately getting on his knees to propose the date, much to her shock. Her answer comes not in words, but in a brutal kick straight to his face. She's absolutely furious, screaming at him for having the audacity to even approach her. Grabbing him by the collar, she dares him to say it again if he's got the guts. But our boy, completely unfazed, just looks up and calmly asks her to go on a date with him once more. That was the wrong move, as she responds with a devastating right hook to the jaw. The punch connects with a sickening crack, sending blood flying from his mouth. He's sent tumbling backwards from the sheer force of the blow. With knuckles bloodied, she stands over him, demanding he say it again. Even with a busted face, our boy declares he'll ask her to go on a date 1,000,000 times if he has to. But his sheer persistence makes Eileen pause, as she recognizes a familiar look in his eyes. She realizes he has the same desperate expression as soldiers trying to fulfill one last regret before a suicide mission. The absurdity of his death-defying request suddenly makes her burst out laughing. Impressed by his insane guts, she smirks and finally agrees to go on this ridiculous date. And just like that, the scene shifts to a fancy rooftop cafe for their date. Our boy, all cleaned up, walks over to her with a drink in hand. They even end up sharing the same drink, looking like a surprisingly cute couple. Their next stop is a movie theater, where a horrifying ghost flashes across the screen. It turns out our tough-as-nails hero is terrified of horror movies, while Eileen is completely unfazed. They even stop to take a cute selfie, looking like a real couple having the time of their lives. The date continues with a scenic bike ride along the coast as the sun begins to set. Our boy is ecstatic, thinking to himself that he's been planning the perfect date for nearly 20 years. The only thing he was ever missing was a girl to share it with, and now he feels he can die with no regrets. But Eileen, riding behind him, can't shake the feeling that something is deeply wrong with his mindset. She suddenly calls out his name, her tone shifting from playful to dead serious. She tells him she's seen that look on countless soldiers before they die, and that nothing is more important than staying alive. While she doesn't know what he went through, she tells him to stop planning for a perfect death. Instead, she urges him to live, because that's the only way he'll ever get the life he truly wants. Our boy is completely stunned, her words hitting him harder than any punch ever could. The sun sets over the ocean, marking a turning point in his life. He stops his bike, his mind reeling as he stares at his own reflection in the water. For the first time, he's not just thinking about survival, but about actually living. He sincerely thanks her, and she just tells him to make sure he asks her out again. Later that night, the cockroach god appears, mocking him for having such a simple desire. The god explains his pathetic wish was so pure, it broke a seal, causing a golden key to materialize. As our boy holds it, the key suddenly cracks and shatters in his hand. A brilliant light erupts, opening the gateway to the cockroach god's divine realm. With the cockroach god's realm swirling before him, our boy stands ready to face whatever comes next. He smirks, telling the absent god that this is more than just a simple wish. For him, this is about finally closing the door on his trash-tier past life. Without a shred of hesitation, he plunges his hand into the blinding light of the portal. The gateway snaps shut, leaving the rooftop completely empty as if nothing ever happened. He's suddenly transported into the middle of a dense, foreboding jungle. Welcome to the secret realm, Darkwood Forest, a place that looks anything but friendly. Our boy is completely dumbfounded, realizing this is way more insane than he ever imagined. Before he can even catch his breath, a Guardian-class monster, the king of snake-tailed monkeys, lets out a deafening roar. But the old Zhou Yi is gone. Activating the heavy-horned beast's armor, he decides he's done running. He meets the roaring king of snake-tailed monkeys head-on, a clash of titans in the making. With blinding speed, he zips around the beast, his arm blades carving deep gashes into its body. He leaps onto its back, ready to deliver the final blow and end this fight for good. But the Monster King reacts in a flash, its massive hand shooting out to intercept him. Our boy is caught mid-air, completely trapped in the beast's crushing grip. Thinking fast, he activates his trance skin, desperately trying to withstand the immense pressure. The wooden defense groans and cracks under the strain, barely holding together. Just then, he looks up and his heart sinks. It wasn't just one monster, he's surrounded by an entire army of them. The king of snake-tailed monkeys squeezes with all its might, and our boy can feel his defenses shattering. With a sickening crunch, his armor and body give way under the overwhelming force. The Monster King hurls his broken body away like a piece of trash. He's sent flying through the forest, getting brutally impaled on a massive tree branch. Pinned and bleeding out, he gasps for air. But the fire in his eyes proves he's not done yet. In a last-ditch effort, he unleashes his sleep-inducing pollen, hoping to buy himself just a few seconds. The Monster King is caught off guard, inhaling the strange cloud rising from its prey. While the beast is distracted, he channels what little energy he has left, preparing his ultimate trump card. His undying trait kicks in, and his mangled body begins to regenerate at an insane speed. Our boy realizes that while these monkeys are individually trashed here, their numbers are overwhelming. A straight fight is suicide. But then, a flash of genius hits him as he remembers a key detail about this jungle's food chain. He recalls seeing one of these poor saps tangled up in a massive spider web, paralyzed with fear. With the Monster King still dazed from the sleep pollen, Zhou Yi sees his window of opportunity. He activates his frog leap skill, planning to lure the entire monkey horde straight into their predator's territory. With a powerful leap, he bolts, knowing this desperate gamble is his only chance of survival. The rest of the furious monkey clan roars in anger, immediately giving chase through the dense forest. He becomes a blur, zipping through the trees at an insane velocity. In a final act of pure audacity, he uses the Giant King's own hand as a springboard to escape. The Monkey King is absolutely livid, roaring in fury as our boy makes his getaway. Zhou Yi activates his corrosive mucus, dissolving the last of the king's grip and launching himself free. With the horde hot on his tail, he finally spots his destination up ahead. Bingo, he's found it. The lair of the giant hunter spiders, the monkey's natural predators. The system confirms his gamble was a big one. These 8-legged freaks are Guardian-class monsters. To navigate the web-filled terrain, he activates a brand new skill he devoured earlier. He sprouts massive wings, activating the white-tailed grouse feather ability to take to the air. His sudden intrusion immediately puts the massive spider on high alert. Turns out, this isn't just one web, but a whole city of them, and he just flew into the hornet's nest. Our boy reveals his genius plan. He's disguised himself as the spider's natural predator, so they won't even touch him. With his white-tailed grouse traits fully active, he watches as his pursuers run straight into their doom. The enraged king of snake-tailed monkeys and his horde charge blindly forward, getting hopelessly tangled in the spider's webs. Before the monkeys can even react, the giant hunter spiders descend from the canopy, ready to feast. The spiders immediately swarm the powerful Monkey King, sinking their venomous fangs into the struggling beast. One of the larger spiders channels a powerful green energy, preparing to secure its massive catch. It slams its legs down, instantly reinforcing the webs and completely immobilizing the king. The once mighty king can only let out a final, agonizing roar as the poison and webs overwhelm him. In a matter of seconds, the Guardian-class monster is reduced to a tightly wrapped meal, completely at the spider's mercy. From the shadows, our boy watches his master plan unfold as the spiders make short work of the remaining monkeys. He thinks it's strange, though, since these spiders usually hunt isolated prey, not entire troops. Then it clicks: the white-tailed grouse feather he planted lured the whole enraged horde right into the spider's nest. The monkeys, completely blinded by rage, had charged straight into enemy territory without a second thought. And the spiders, being fiercely territorial, were more than happy to welcome them with open fangs. It's an absolute bloodbath as the spiders effortlessly tear the charging ape monsters to shreds. A wicked grin spreads across Zhou Yi's face. This chaos is the perfect cover for him to make his move. With a flash of green light, he activates his Mantis Scythe ability, transforming his arms into razor-sharp blades. He launches himself towards a spider that's completely distracted with its current meal. Before the monster can even react, our boy brings his scythes down, slicing the unsuspecting spider clean in two. He continues his hit-and-run tactics, slashing at another one of the hulking beast monsters. His strategy is to keep picking off the stragglers, ensuring the war of attrition between the two factions drags on. Seeing an opening, he leaps onto the beast's arm and sinks his teeth in, hoping to absorb its power. He rips away a chunk of flesh, ready for the rush of a new trait. This is his chance to get exponentially stronger, while everyone else is distracted. But a moment later, he realizes nothing has changed. Hess utterly confused, wondering why his devour ability suddenly isn't working. Just then, the cockroach god appears, calling him an idiot for thinking he could just bite randomly to get stronger. The god explains that, to acquire traits, he needs to devour specific parts, and it will now mark those vital spots for him. As if on cue, a system window highlights the exact part of a dead beast's arm that our boy needs to consume. With the target now clearly marked on the giant ape's bicep, our boy finally gets it. Wasting no time, he chomps down on the designated flesh, ready for his power-up. A system notification confirms his success, upgrading his old trait to the far superior giant snake ape arms. He glances back at the other awakeners, still locked in a desperate struggle against the horde. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he realizes this chaotic battlefield is the perfect all-you-can-eat buffet for evolution. He continues his feast on another monster, instantly acquiring a venomous stinger, paralytic venom, and even paralysis resistance. Covered in the blood of his prey, our boy's eyes glow with a predator's light, ready for the main course. He declares it's his turn to clean up, unleashing a devastating attack that shreds through the remaining monsters. After the slaughter, he's left panting, but the cockroach god immediately points him toward his next objective. Before them lies a massive, glowing gate, the entrance to the true boss's territory. As they step through, Zhou Yi immediately feels an insanely powerful aura radiating from inside the boss room. Hess momentarily taken aback by the sheer pressure of the energy Hes sensing. But instead of a boss, he finds a massive, glowing pile in the center of the cavern. It's a mountain of monster skulls, with a single, pulsating red orb of pure energy floating above it. Driven by instinct, our boy reaches out and claims the mysterious treasure for himself. The cockroach god explains this is an ultra-rare secret realm gem, found only in monster graveyards like this one. Over countless years, it has absorbed the residual energy of every monster that has ever died in this realm. He's given a choice: absorb all the power at once, or use half of it to open a rift and escape safely. Zhou Yi stares at the gem, weighing his options with the fate of his evolution in his hands. He realizes he has to decide between playing it safe or gambling everything for a shot at unimaginable power. And for our boy, the choice is obvious. This is his one shot to truly evolve, and he's not about to back out now. He knows an opportunity this good might never come again, so he plants his foot and commits to the path of power. Besides, he hasn't even faced the realm's boss yet, and there's no way he's running with his tail between his legs. He steps through a fiery gate into a massive throne room, where the final challenge of this realm awaits him. Sitting on a throne of rock is the heavy-horned beastman, a monster whose danger level is so high the system can't even read it. Zhou Yi is floored. He can't scan its level, and even from this distance, the sheer pressure is suffocating. But this isn't some mindless beast, it speaks, demanding to know if Zhou Yi is the one who slaughtered its kin. Our boy is dumbfounded, realizing the boss must be talking about the heavy-horned beast he devoured back in the abyss. The horrifying implication hits him as the beastman grabs its weapon. These monsters might have a society just like humans. Before he can even process this revelation, the boss leaps forward, bringing a colossal energy blade crashing down on him. The impact is absolutely devastating, shattering the very ground beneath them in a fiery explosion. But as the smoke clears, the beastman realizes its killer blow was somehow stopped. It's left speechless. Seeing Zhou Yi standing tall after transforming into a monstrous silhouette himself, our boy has activated his giant snake ape arms, bulking up to face this monster head-on. The beastman is more confused than anything, demanding to know how a human got in when the connection to his world isn't even open. Zhou Yi is floored by the implication: is this monster planning to invade Earth? The beastman decides it's done with the questions, and will just let Zhou Yi do the talking. Its eyes flare with a terrifying green light, locking onto its prey. But it was a feint. The beastman blitzes forward in an instant, giving Zhou Yi no time to react. The punch connects with brutal force, sending our boy flying as he spits up a spray of blood. He's sent rocketing through the cavern wall, the sheer force of the blow shattering everything around him. Our boy slams into the ground with enough power to carve out a massive crater, completely at the beastman's mercy. It looks like it's all over. A gaping, fatal hole has been punched clean through his chest. But just as he's about to fade, a system notification pops up. His undying trait has activated, and damage recovery is in progress. The beastman stops in its tracks, dumbfounded by what it's witnessing. It notes his insane recovery speed is just like its own kind, calling him an interesting specimen. Deciding it's done playing, the monster raises its colossal blade, intending to cut him open and study his secrets. With terrifying speed, the blade comes hurtling down to finish the job. But Zhou Yi's eyes flare to life as he activates dynamic vision, enhancing his perception of high-speed targets. In a shocking turn, the beastman's attack freezes just inches from his face, stopped by an unseen force. Our boy analyzes the situation, realizing the beastman's raw strength is absolutely terrifying. But he spots a weakness. Its attacks are powerful but simplistic, giving him an opening. With a burst of speed, he dodges the massive blade as it smashes into the ground right where he was. He decides his only chance is to close the distance, believing a close-quarters fight will give him the edge. Activating his corrosive slime, he lunges in, hoping to devour the monster's powerful traits for himself. But the beastman is just on another level, casually swatting him out of the air like a gnat. The monster seems utterly bored, dropping its colossal weapon and muttering that it's a pain to use. It cracks its knuckles, declaring that it much prefers to settle things with its fists. Without warning, the beastman unleashes a devastating flurry of punches, hammering our boy into the ground. The brutal assault kicks up a massive cloud of dust, completely hiding the one-sided beatdown. When the dust settles, our boy is left at the bottom of a massive crater, completely smashed into the earth. He's barely conscious, gasping for air as blood trickles from his mouth, looking utterly defeated. The beastman clicks its tongue in annoyance, surprised that the little bug is somehow still alive after all that. Turns out, Zhou Yi's elastic muscles trait absorbed most of the kinetic force, barely saving his life. Done playing games, the monster picks its massive blade back up, looming over him to deliver the final blow. It declares that it's bored now, channeling a terrifying amount of fiery energy into its weapon. With a furious roar, it swings the supercharged blade down, aiming to cleave our boy in two. But just as the blade is about to connect, Zhou Yi throws up a hand in a last-ditch effort to block. He activates another trump card, Hardened Skin, the ultimate defense he devoured from the original heavy-horned beast. The flaming sword grinds to a screeching halt against his newly armored arm, leaving the beastman completely dumbfounded. The beastman puts all his weight into the swing, but our boy's newly hardened arm holds strong against the fiery blade. Zhou Yi realizes his skin is nullifying the flames and he still has an escape plan, much to the cockroach god's amusement. But he's not about to run. With a surge of power, he decides this fight is far from over. As the monster recklessly presses its attack, Zhou Yi spots the perfect opening for a counter. He activates another devoured trait, transforming his arms into the massive fists of the giant snake ape. He crosses his newly empowered arms, winding up for a punch that's about to change the entire battlefield. With a savage roar, he smashes a brutal uppercut straight into the beastman's jaw. The colossal monster is sent flying upwards, crashing clean through the solid rock ceiling. Before Zhou Yi can even catch his breath, the ground cracks open, spewing streams of pure lava. The beastman lands back on his feet, now wielding a spear and surrounded by a vortex of fire, unleashing his lava burst stream. The beastman is absolutely seething, channeling all its rage into the spear. It hurls the weapon, which shatters into a storm of fiery projectiles aimed right at our boy. Zhou Yi is completely pinned down, realizing there's no escape from this wide-scale bombardment. The first volley hits the ground, erupting in a massive explosion that sends him flying. But the attack isn't over. The remaining lava spears curve through the air, homing in on him. He activates Frog Leap, desperately weaving and jumping between the deadly projectiles. He's agile, but not perfect. One of the spears skewers him clean through the leg. His undying skill activates, but a grim notification pops up. The cursed flames are disabling all recovery. Zhou Yi is stunned. For the first time, his insane regeneration has been completely shut down. The beastman roars that it will melt him to nothing as the vortex of lava closes in for the kill. Pushed to the absolute brink and engulfed in flames, Zhou Yi decides he's done running. With a roar of pure defiance, he declares that if he's going to die, he's taking this monster down with him. Our boy taps into his devoured traits, manifesting a massive, crystalline spear, the very power of his enemy. He charges head-on into the sea of lava, a one-man army against a god-tier beast. The cursed flames sear his skin, but he ignores the pain, screaming that the beastman is the one to blame for this hell. With a final, desperate leap, he brings the colossal spear crashing down on the beastman's head. The impact is immense, and for a second, it looks like it worked as cracks, spiderweb across the monster's armor. But in a shocking turn, the beastman's hand shoots up and catches the spear just inches from its skull. Zhou Yi is left completely frozen. His all-or-nothing attack stopped dead in its tracks. The beastman glares, now holding the weapon, its eyes glowing with rage as it prepares to finish this once and for all. With his attack failed, our boy can only watch as the beastman's inferno closes in. The monster unleashes its lava burst stream, a roaring torrent of fire meant to erase him from existence. Zhou Yi is completely swallowed by the vortex of flames, his life about to be snuffed out. But suddenly, the cockroach god appears, screaming that this is a monster he can't beat, and it won't let him die. The god declares it's forcibly activating a secret realm gem to open an emergency escape portal. In a shocking act of defiance, Zhou Yi's hand flashes out and smacks the escape item away. The precious gem shatters into a million pieces, their only way out now completely gone. The cockroach god is left speechless, staring in disbelief at the broken man on the ground. With a defiant grin, Zhou Yi reveals he made peace with dying a long time ago. This sheer, stubborn refusal to be saved leaves the divine being utterly dumbfounded. With the escape gem shattered, Zhou Yi's life force seems to just fizzle out into a red mist. The cockroach god, in a last-ditch effort, commands its remaining divine power to envelop our boy's body. But instead of fading away, Zhou Yi's form erupts in a blinding golden light, a power surge nobody saw coming. Even the colossal heavy-horned beastman is stopped in its tracks, stunned by this insane spike in energy. The monster is completely dumbfounded, Unable to comprehend how a tidal wave of power is pouring out of a dying man, a system window suddenly appears, declaring that he did not run from certain death. Turns out, this whole ordeal was the second trial of the cockroach god, and by embracing his end, he's unlocked a new fighter form. A massive explosion of golden energy radiates from his body, signaling the birth of something entirely new. Our boy rises, no longer a broken man but a warrior, clad in jagged biological armor, feeling an incredible power surging within. He wonders what this new form is, and the now gleeful cockroach god explains it's a state that lets his traits evolve freely. Our boy braces himself, his new form ready for its first real test against the colossal beast. The heavy-horned beastman doesn't waste a second, unleashing a devastating lava burst stream. A massive explosion engulfs the area, tearing the very ground apart in a fiery spectacle. The smoke clears slowly, revealing the scorched earth left in the attack's destructive wake. The cockroach god explains that this new armor fuses all his traits, like the toad skin and beast hide. Zhou Yi is stunned. The full power blast barely even scratched his new biological composite armor. From a distance, the beastman scoffs, absolutely certain that no one could have survived that barrage. But suddenly, a spinning projectile bursts from the smoke, rocketing straight towards the monster. The beastman is utterly shocked, his glowing eyes wide with disbelief at what's happening. Turns out, Zhou Yi just activated a new combo, using his snake-ape arm and elastic muscles for a killer long-range punch. The cockroach god chimes in, explaining that this new fighter form lets him chain traits into devastating combos with zero cooldown. Our boy realizes the insane potential. He can now unleash attacks his enemies would never see coming. On top of that, his strength, stamina, and agility are boosted tenfold, and he can feel the raw power coursing through him. The spinning punch connects, sending the massive beastman crashing to the ground in a heap. He's completely dumbfounded, staring at the dent in his own armor, while his opponent is literally unscratched. Refusing to accept this humiliation, the beastman lets out a roar of fury and launches himself back into the air for another attack. But Zhou Yi is ice cold, his eyes glowing as he calmly analyzes the incoming assault. He activates a new combo: dynamic vision, elastic muscles, and the lethal mantis scythe blades. The beastman's energy blades come flying, but our boy deflects them with casual ease, leaving the monster utterly stunned. With his mantis scythes poised, Zhou Yi looks down on his foe, ready to end this once and for all. Not giving the beast a second to breathe, Zhou Yi launches it sky high with a devastating kick. Before it can even fall, our boy snatches the beastman's arm right out of the air. He begins swinging the massive monster around like a cheap rag doll, building up insane momentum. With a final, focused roar, he prepares to slam his opponent into the unforgiving ground. The impact is catastrophic, sending a shockwave of fire and debris across the entire battlefield. The beastman lies broken in the crater, barely able to process its own humiliating defeat. It lets out one last, pathetic scream of pure rage and frustration at being so thoroughly outclassed. The force of the slam impales the monster's body on a massive, jagged rock spire. Zhou Yi calmly stands over his fallen enemy, the victor of this brutal showdown. The heavy-horned beastman is finished, its glowing eyes finally starting to fade. But the beastman isn't done, deciding to reset his world expansion progress for one last gambit. With a grunt of sheer will, he rips his own body off the impaling rock, determined to recover his full power. Our boy Zhou Yi just watches, slightly intrigued that this trash-tier opponent still has some fight left in him. The ground erupts in a massive shockwave of fire as the beastman frees himself completely. He's completely engulfed in a pillar of flame, seemingly sacrificing his own life force for a power-up. Emerging from the inferno, he laughs like a madman, boasting that Zhou Yi just missed his only chance to kill him. Zhou Yi, however, looks completely unimpressed, ready to put this monster down for good. His eyes suddenly glow with a new power as he activates a hidden ability. Turns out, his fighter form lets him see an enemy's weak points, with stronger traits glowing brighter. Now seeing the beastman's vulnerabilities laid bare, our boy gets ready to end this fight properly. With his new vision, Zhou Yi vanishes from sight, leaving nothing but a crater in his wake. The beastman is left completely dumbfounded, frantically wondering where his opponent disappeared to. Before he can even blink, our boy is already on him, a crimson blur of pure speed. He leaps high into the air, bringing his mantis scythe down in a devastating arc. With a sickening crunch, the beastman's massive horn is sliced clean off, his ultimate power source now just a broken trophy. The monster collapses to his knees, utterly broken and unable to comprehend the sheer difference in their power. In his final moments, the beastman realizes he wasn't the monster here. He was just prey for a far greater predator. A system notification reveals the truth. Our boy just used a trait combo, mixing Frog Leap with his mantis scythe for a lethal finish. Never one to waste a good power-up, Zhou Yi calmly picks up the severed horn from the ground, and without a moment's hesitation, he pops the horn into his mouth, ready to devour its essence. But just as our boy is about to enjoy his meal, the beastman gets back up, roaring that he's already recovered his power. He unleashes his final, desperate attack, a massive vortex of pure, molten energy he calls the Molten Spiral. The monster screams that this wave of lava will burn Zhou Yi to ashes, absolutely certain that he will be the victor. Yet, as the apocalyptic inferno barrels towards him, our boy doesn't even flinch. He just stands there, a new power coursing through him from the horn he just devoured. The swirling vortex of destruction closes in, ready to vaporize him in an instant. But with a single, blinding flash of light, Zhou Yi effortlessly slices the entire attack in half. The heavy-horned beastman is left completely dumbfounded, unable to believe his ultimate move was just nullified. Zhou Yi calmly materializes a new spear, and asks the monster if anyone ever told him his horn tastes like black pepper sauce. With a crazed grin, he admits that he freaking loved it, revealing the terrifying source of his new power. The beastman's eyes widen in absolute, primal fear. Hez, so terrified, is crying for his mommy, realizing he's not fighting a man, but a monster who eats other monsters. Zhou Yi just smirks, asking him if he can handle his own ultimate move being thrown right back at him. Turns out, devouring the horn upgraded his trait, granting him a molten attribute and a devastating new skill. Our boy unleashes it without a second thought. The scorching heaven, Molten Spiral. The once mighty beast is reduced to a quivering wreck on the ground, pathetically begging for his life. But Zhou Yi's face is pure ice. There will be no mercy here today. The fiery vortex slams into the beastman, who can only let out a final, agonizing scream. He's completely swallowed by the inferno, his own power becoming his fiery grave. In a blinding flash, the heavy-horned beastman is utterly vaporized, leaving nothing but dust and echoes. As the smoke clears, Zhou Yi stands alone at the epicenter of a massive, smoldering crater. But amidst the devastation, a single, glowing amber gem materializes the spoils of his overwhelming victory. Our boy looks up, dumbfounded, wondering what kind of treasure a Lord-class monster could possibly drop. The cockroach god appears, explaining this is a monster seal, a rare item that unlocks a transformation record for his Imperial Iron Guard. A wicked grin spreads across Zhou Yi's face as he realizes his chubby underling is about to get a serious upgrade. He reaches out with his armored finger and taps the mysterious gem. The seal instantly shatters in a brilliant flash of light, its power now unleashed. A system window pops up, confirming that his subordinate, Fatty, has obtained the heavy-horned beastman's record. Without a moment's hesitation, Zhou Yi confirms the summon, ready to see this new power in action. And just like that, his newly empowered Imperial Iron Guard is launched from the interface, ready for battle. Fatty is launched from the portal, a blur of motion as he materializes on the battlefield. He lands with a ground-shaking thud, no longer a simple cockroach but an absolute monster towering over our boy. The newly transformed behemoth looks down, dumbfounded, and asks Zhou Yi why he suddenly looks so tiny. Our boy just grins, clenching his fists in excitement because this power-up is even more insane than he'd hoped. The sheer scale is ridiculous. Fatty is now a walking fortress, making his master look like a child. As he rises to his full, intimidating height, you can feel the raw power radiating from his new form. A system window pops up, confirming the upgrade is legit. Fatty is now officially a Guardian-class lord, but even with all this power, Fatty's first thought is to complain to his boss about how ugly his new body is. The cockroach god appears, explaining that this isn't just cosmetic. Fatty's power will scale up with every strong monster they defeat, and to prove the point, his new arm effortlessly shatters a massive stone pillar into nothing but dust. Fatty stares at the obliterated pillar, completely stunned by his own raw power. But instead of feeling hyped, he's just filled with a sense of dread about his new monstrous form. He clenches his fists, not seeing a weapon, but a total downgrade to his quality of life. The sheer size and power feel more like a curse than a blessing to our big guy. He starts bawling to his boss, complaining that he's now useless because he can't even fit through doors anymore. Zhou Yi has heard enough of this whining and promptly smacks some sense back into him. Our boy tells him to get a grip, demanding to see what this new Lord-class body is actually capable of. That tough love is all it takes. Fatty's arm immediately morphs into a massive, terrifying blade. He stands tall, brandishing the new weapon with a surge of confidence he didn't have moments ago. A sinister grin spreads across his face. The Guardian has finally accepted his power and is ready for war. To test his mettle, Zhou Yi stands firm as the newly empowered Guardian unleashes a devastating strike. The clash erupts in a massive explosion of pure force and heat, a testament to the Guardian's new Lord-class power. Our boy is actually pushed back, his arm steaming from the sheer intensity of the blow. Hez dumbfounded, realizing the damage from this single attack is even worse than the boss flame attacks. The cockroach god explains that since the Guardian isn't maintaining the secret realm, he's at 100% full power. Zhou Yi simply waves his hand, effortlessly dissipating the lingering flames around him. Turns out, our boy had an upgrade of his own. His heavy-horned beast trait has evolved with a new molten attribute. He smirks, thinking to himself that the Guardian's new beastman form is the perfect hidden card for the battles ahead. With his traits leveled up and a full-power Lord-class subordinate, He's confident he can handle anything. 3 days pass in the blink of an eye, and the time for the next challenge has finally arrived. The next trial takes place in a massive, sun-drenched arena, a coliseum built for battle. Our boy Zhou Yi finally steps into the light, ready for whatever comes next. He walks out onto the sand, finding himself dwarfed by the sheer scale of the place and the faceless masses. Standing before the roaring crowd, he takes in the electric atmosphere filled with flying confetti. The stands are packed with spectators, all hyped up for the bloody spectacle about to unfold. He's a little dumbfounded, muttering to himself about the insane number of people gathered here. The entire city seems to have turned out for the Extermination Squad selection tournament. He knows this is the most important event in Nirai City, a make-or-break moment for many. But this isn't just about recruiting new blood. It's a political battlefield for the city's power struggle. The 4 major families send their best, with the winner's clan earning the speaker's seat and total control for 4 years. Our boy Zhou Yi realizes this tournament isn't just a test of strength, it's about controlling the city's power. As he watches, a group of cloaked figures makes their way through the arena, clearly a big deal. Turns out the guy with the eye patch is Bai Haoyu, a key player from the powerful Bai family. His family runs the entire Nirai City Intelligence Bureau, and his crew is made up of nothing but elite operatives. Then another heavyweight enters the ring, Tony Olaf, the golden boy representing the military. This guy is the clear favorite to win, and his victory would cement the military's control over all armed forces in the city. The 2 factions face off, the air thick with tension. Everyone knows this tournament will decide if the Olaf family gets a 4th term in power. Bai Haoyu just smirks, confirming that his Bai family will continue to support the Olaf clan, as they always have. But just as the political lines seem drawn, the entire crowd erupts in shock, pointing at a new arrival. A gasp ripples through the stands as the saintess of the Esper Church, Karen User, makes her grand entrance. This is her first ever public appearance, a move that's shaking up the entire political landscape. Turns out her main ability is some kind of hypnosis, which is why her creepy-looking followers are all blindfolded. Our boy, Zhou Yi, immediately clocks how unsettling her entourage is, knowing something is definitely off. Eileen explains that for now, the church is still a useful tool for maintaining stability in the outer regions. Down in the arena, the 3 major powers now stand in a tense triangle, sizing each other up. Even Bai Haoyu is caught off guard, admitting he never thought the church would actually send their saintess to fight. But Tony Olaf just grins, telling him to forget her. She's not the real prize they're after. His eyes instead lock onto another group that has just entered the arena, a new variable in this power struggle. He points out a kid in glasses, flanked by 2 absolute units, identifying him as Zhang Jie, the Zhang family's representative. This kid, Zhang Jie, looks more like a lab rat than a fighter, but you can tell he's not to be underestimated. Tony Olaf scoffs, openly mocking the Zhang family for sending out their useless young master. He lays out a trash-tier deal. If Zhang Jie surrenders now, his family might get to keep 1 measly seat. But the kid fires back, declaring that the Zhang family will never become the military's lapdogs. Tony just smirks, ominously stating that soon Nirai City will only have 3 major families left anyway. From the sidelines, Zhou Yi notes the tense relationship, recalling the Zhang family runs the Esper Research Institute. Eileen confirms they're allies, but bluntly states that Zhang Zhe is the weakest of the 4 representatives here. The vice captain reveals the military's plan to seize the Zhang family's seat, needing Eileen to rank high to protect them. Our boy chimes in with a determined vow to do his best, ready to prove his worth. Eileen calmly removes her earpiece, seemingly unfazed by the pressure. Her vice captain, however, isn't convinced, asking if the commander truly believes in a wildcard like Zhou Yi. Eileen knows the stakes are high. If the military gains full control of parliament, they're all in deep trouble. The vice captain smirks, admitting that since our boy saved Liu Yao and survived the abyss, he must have at least some skill. Just then, a volley of fireworks erupts in the sky, signaling the start of the Extermination Squad tournament. Inside a massive coliseum, the crowd roars with anticipation, pumped for the trials to begin. The arena is absolutely packed, with every seat filled by spectators eager to see who makes the cut. Suddenly, the ground rumbles as strange green vines begin to sprout from the sandy arena floor. In a flash, the vines weave together and bloom into a gigantic pink flower, right in the center of the stage. A figure emerges from within the flower's petals, making one hell of an entrance. She introduces herself as Haley Carmen, the captain of Squad 10 and the examiner for the first round. Haley explains that the tournament consists of 3 rounds, with the first challenge being a trial called Extreme Climb. Haley lays out the rules. Behind her is a mountain path with 100 steps, and just reaching the 10th one counts as a pass. She then addresses the massive crowd of applicants, ready to drop a reality check on them all. With a cold smirk, she warns them that based on past results, 2/3 of them are going to die on this climb. The contestants are absolutely dumbfounded. They came for a test, not a suicide mission. Haley offers some half-hearted reassurance, saying her squad will try to ensure their safety, but they should still proceed with caution. With a dramatic flourish, she officially declares that the first round of the Extermination Squad selection tournament begins now. A burst of energy explodes at the top of the stairs, and the entire group of contestants begins their mad dash forward. But one defiant contestant in a brown hoodie just scoffs at the warning, clearly unimpressed. He grits his teeth, thinking to himself what a pathetic attempt at intimidation this is. Believing it's just a simple mountain climb, he's the first to charge up the stone steps, leaving everyone else in the dust. The contestants pour up the massive stone staircase, a mad dash to prove their worth. They finally burst through the top into what seems to be a castle courtyard, thinking the hard part is over. Watching from a balcony, Tony Olaf scoffs, calling them a bunch of fools who don't even know how they're about to die. Our defiant boy looks back with a sneer, thinking the so-called elites are pathetic and that he's already secured his victory. But as his foot lands for the next step, the very ground beneath him feels completely wrong. A strange, glitchy energy suddenly crackles around his leg as reality begins to warp. His cocky expression instantly shatters, replaced by pure, unadulterated shock. The entire world twists violently, dumping him and the others into a bizarre, neon-lit cityscape. Completely dumbfounded, he looks around in a panic, wondering where in the hell he just ended up. But the horrifying truth is revealed. They never left the stairs. Their bodies are just marching upward like mindless puppets, trapped in a powerful illusion. But our boy Zhou Yi is completely unaffected, wondering why everyone else is suddenly standing around like mindless zombies. Haley, the Squad 10 captain, just smirks, revealing this test is far more than a simple physical climb. She explains these stairs are carved from the bones of a Ghost King-class monster, a legendary beast humanity barely managed to defeat. Its lingering will is so powerful that it traps anyone who steps on it in a deadly illusion. Inside their minds, the contestants are being ripped to shreds by horrific monsters, screaming in pure agony. Haley's eyes narrow as she reveals the grim fate for those who can't escape this mental prison. The price of failure is death, and in the real world, their bodies simply drop dead on the steps. With a sigh, she raises a hand glowing with green energy, stating that she's afraid they've been eliminated. A massive resurrection halo brings the fallen contestants back from the brink, but their trial is officially over. Zhou Yi is just dumbfounded, realizing that in a matter of seconds, a huge portion of the competition has already been wiped out. Eileen explains that each illusion has a specific goal, and you only escape by completing it. She gives a final warning that they're on their own once inside. As our boy Zhou Yi stares up the daunting steps, elsewhere, a cocky contestant named Tony Olaf rallies his squad, dead set on climbing higher than anyone else. With a unified roar, his whole crew charges up the stairs, plunging headfirst into the mental battlefield. The second Tony's foot lands, his senses are warped, and his face hardens with grim determination. He finds himself dropped into a blazing forest, with the world burning down around him. A massive 5-minute timer appears in the sky. His trial is a desperate race against time to survive. The inferno before him begins to swirl violently, gathering into a single, terrifying mass of energy. It forms into a colossal fire dragon, roaring as it prepares to turn him to ash. But Tony just grins, amused that the trial has specifically thrown a fire-based nightmare at him, as if to counter his abilities. Tony just scoffs, surviving 5 minutes in this trash. Tier illusion is barely a warm-up for him. He barks out the command for Plan 1, and his crew answers with military precision. Turns out, his entire squad is made up of water-type espers, the perfect counter. They unleash a combined torrent of water, aimed straight at the roaring fire dragon. With a smug look, Tony gives the final signal with a snap of his fingers. The water instantly freezes, encasing the beast in a massive tomb of ice, and shattering the illusion completely. And just like that, the trial is over. They reappear on the stairs, continuing their climb without breaking a sweat. The vice captain watches, impressed, noting that the military clearly sent an elite squad to win this year. Eileen, however, is a little shaken, wondering how her commander can stay so composed. He just smirks, telling her it's far too early to get nervous, snapping her out of it. The vice captain explains that for elite candidates like the Saintess and Bai Haoyu, these first steps are just a warm-up to weed out the trash-tier rookies. But the higher they climb, the deadlier the illusions become, and soon they won't have any lackeys left to sacrifice. He continues, saying there are 2 ways to conquer this trial. Either you possess one technique so powerful it can overwhelm everything, or you have a mind that can calmly adapt to any hell thrown your way. Meanwhile, the spectators notice our boy still hasn't moved from the starting line and start mocking him for chickening out. But Zhou Yi isn't scared. He's been calmly analyzing the situation this whole time. With his plan set, his eyes snap open, glowing with sheer determination. He finally takes his first step onto the illusion-filled staircase. The moment his foot touches down, the world around him begins to warp instantly. He's immediately thrown into a vision of a frozen wasteland, already falling through the icy air. He realizes he's falling between 2 sheer cliffs, the ice walls offering zero grip. Without a hint of panic, Our boy instantly summons a fiery spear to save himself. The spearhead smashes into the ice, creating the anchor point he desperately needs. Now, in a more combat-ready form, he lands perfectly balanced on the spear shaft. Has stopped his fall for now, but has a sitting duck in this chasm. Right on cue, a massive electric bird monster swoops in for the kill. He quickly sizes up the hellish scenario, a frictionless wall, and an aerial attacker. This kind of tricky setup calls for a specific build, so he pulls up his ability menu. He selects 2 of his devoured traits, the venomous spider stinger and the sticky tongue snap. Combining them on the fly, he creates a vicious thorny whip, thinking it's the perfect counter. With a vicious crack, our boy unleashes his new stinger whip just as the electric beast dives in. But something insane happens. The whip doesn't just strike, it starts absorbing the monster's lightning attack. In seconds, his weapon is supercharged, crackling with the very energy meant to kill him. The bird monster gets a nasty shock, completely stunned that its own power was just hijacked. With its attack nullified, the creature plummets helplessly into the icy abyss below. Zhou just smirks, thinking to himself that this little encounter was nothing more than a warm-up. And just like that, the illusion shatters, and he finds himself landing on solid ground once again. He quickly realizes the monsters were just fakes, recalling Eileen's intel that the real threats are Guardian-class beasts near the summit. Before he can even process it, the next phase of the trial materializes. A massive, glowing maze. Stepping into the labyrinth, he braces himself for whatever twisted mind game the test will throw at him next. Our boy knows these illusion trials are designed to screw people over by countering their powers. But for him, there's only one solution: brute force, as he unleashes a massive fire blast from his spear. The fiery attack carves a perfect, straight path right through the icy maze walls. At the end of the newly formed corridor, a glowing exit portal awaits him. He just smirks, knowing his adaptive abilities make this whole thing a walk in the park. The next trial begins on a massive staircase, and he decides to just charge straight through. The other contestants start mocking him, wondering if he thinks he's the main character for starting last. With a single step, he prepares to show them what real power looks like. He blitzes past the entire group in a flash, leaving them all in his dust. The trash-talking contestants are left completely dumbfounded, begging the boss to take them with him. The remaining contestants, fuming from the humiliation, turn on each other in frustration. It devolves into a pathetic brawl as they fight over who gets to beg our boy for a carry, beating up the one who admits he was wrong. Watching from above, the vice captain is genuinely impressed, noting that Zhou Yi is even faster than he'd anticipated. He turns to Eileen and remarks that at this rate, the kid might actually reach the very top, leaving her completely stunned. Eileen can't believe what she's hearing. There's no way that trash-tier cockroach is actually going to clear this trial. She flashes back, remembering him as just a reckless pest, but then recalls how he saved her life, leaving her utterly conflicted. But our boy isn't just trying to pass. He's aiming for a legendary feat that not even the commander could achieve. His goal is the clear blue sky waiting at the summit, a symbol of absolute victory. A wider view reveals the brutal reality of the staircase, littered with fallen challengers who couldn't make the cut. While our boy climbs, other top-tier contenders are finishing, like the one-eyed prodigy Bai Hao Yu, who clocks in at 38 steps. The so-called saintess, Karen User, isn't far behind, completing her run with a respectable score of 35 steps. But the current king of the hill is Tony Olaf, a ruthless-looking dude who set the bar high at 40 steps. He glances back with pure arrogance, absolutely certain his record is untouchable. Elsewhere on the stairs, another contestant named Zhang Jie is completely gassed, struggling to take another step. He glares at the brutalized corpse of a fellow challenger, realizing this trial is far deadlier than he imagined. The bitter truth dawns on him. He was ganged up on, ambushed inside his own illusion by a pack of hyenas. Crushed, he laments only reaching 31 steps, a shameful failure that doesn't even come close to his family's legacy. Just then, Tony Olaf appears above him, callously telling him to bark like a dog and withdraw to save his family a shred of dignity. With a vicious grin, Tony Olaf suggests a simple sacrifice would solve all of Zhangzi's problems. The cruel words land like a hammer blow, and the humiliated Zhangzi can only break down in tears. But just as he's about to give up, the sound of steady footsteps cuts through the silence. Tony's arrogant smirk vanishes in an instant, replaced by a look of pure shock, because our boy, Zhou Yi, has silently appeared right behind the kneeling contestant. Dumbfounded, Tony demands to know who this nobody is that dares to interrupt him. Zhou Yi doesn't even give him the time of day, simply walking past as if he's not even there. Zhangzi stares in awe, stunned by this newcomer's immense presence and wishing he'd known such a monster existed in their city. Turns out, a voice is echoing in Zhou Yi's mind. It's Eileen, telling him to step in and help Zhangzi. As Zhou Yi continues his climb without a care, the defeated Zhangzi desperately calls out for him to wait. Eileen, watching from afar, is getting seriously ticked off, wondering if our boy even heard her command. Meanwhile, one of Tony's handlers appears, berating him for getting shown up after the Olaf family spent a fortune on his training. Now completely enraged, Tony rallies his goons, vowing to crush his family's 5-0 step record to regain some pride. He charges up the stairs with renewed vigor, but the intense pressure immediately brings his followers to their knees. A few steps later, his men are completely knocked out, and even Tony is starting to gasp for air under the strain. He grits his teeth, admitting to himself that the kid ahead is moving fast, though he chalks it up to reckless abandon. But when he looks up to track his target, he's completely dumbfounded. The kid has vanished into thin air. Turns out, Zhou Yi wasn't ahead of him at all. He was waiting for him at the top with a calm, almost mocking smile. Tony's arrogant facade instantly shatters into a million pieces, his face a mask of pure terror at the impossible gap in their power. Our boy just twists the knife, casually telling Tony that second place is all his for the taking. Tony can't even process the level of disrespect he's just been shown. As Zhou Yi turns to leave, Tony is left completely dumbfounded. Zhou Yi looks back with a smirk, asking why he stopped chasing and saying a real man wouldn't quit so easily. Seething with pure rage, Tony can only grit his teeth and promise that this isn't over. A moment later, the entire dynamic of the trial has been flipped on its head. From the sidelines, Haley announces that Zhou Yi has already hit the 6-0 step mark, taking a commanding lead. He doesn't even break a sweat, blowing past 82 steps like it's nothing. In a flash, he reaches 99 steps, tying the commander's legendary record with ease. The crowd erupts in disbelief, wondering who this monster is as they witness history being made. While the crowd is losing its mind, one spectator is in utter despair, screaming that he bet everything he had on Tony Olaf. Turns out, the local casino boss is also watching, dumbfounded by the kid who just came out of nowhere. He recalls how our boy, Zhou Yi, had the sheer audacity to bet all of his own organs on himself winning. The boss can only stare in horror, realizing this single upset has completely and utterly ruined him. But Zhou Yi isn't done yet. He takes one final, deliberate step onto the platform. Standing at the peak, he smirks and wonders aloud if this pathetic trial is really all they've got. Suddenly, his earpiece buzzes to life, pulling him out of his moment of glory. It's Eileen on the other end, absolutely fuming and asking if he's done showing off yet. She chews him out for ignoring his mission to help Zhangzhe, but he just sheepishly promises he'll get it done. With a final, decisive step, Zhou Yi plants his foot on the 100th stair, officially shattering the commander's record. But instead of taking the safe exit, our boy immediately turns around and sprints back down the stairs. The spectators are completely dumbfounded, wondering why he's re-entering the illusion-filled trial. He blitzes right past a struggling Tony Olaf, who's barely making any progress. Zhou Yi leans in with a smirk, casually asking Tony why he hasn't even reached the 50th step yet. The sheer disrespect hits Tony like a truck. He realizes Zhou Yi came back just to humiliate him. Finally, remembering his mission, Zhou Yi arrives at the bottom to find Zhongzhe completely passed out. He stands over the collapsed researcher, his shadow looming over him. Zhongzhe slowly comes to, looking up in a daze, wondering what on earth is going on. Without a single word, Zhou Yi grabs the kid by his collar. He then effortlessly slings Zhongzhe over his shoulder and starts running back up the stairs, leaving the poor guy utterly bewildered. Tony Olaf is left completely speechless, realizing our boy is soloing a two-person trial while carrying a deadweight. But Zhou Yi's eyes are locked forward, laser-focused on clearing this thing as fast as possible. The illusion throws a literal hellscape at them, but Zhou Yi just pops a shield and strolls right through the flames. Next up is a jungle filled with trash-tier monsters, which he swats aside without even slowing down. Then it's a monster-infested ocean, so he just sprouts wings and flies over the whole mess. Meanwhile, Zhongzhe is having a revelation, thinking he wanted to help but couldn't even keep up with Zhou Yi's insane speed. He decides the best way to contribute is to shut up and be the most well-behaved accessory a guy could ask for. In what feels like a single gust of wind, the entire nightmarish illusion just vanishes around them. Their feet land firmly back on the staircase, right at the very top. Zhou Yi stands there perfectly fine, while Zhongzhe is on the verge of collapsing, having been successfully delivered. Zhongzhe can't believe his eyes. They've somehow made it to the 50th step. Our boy just shrugs it off, telling him that as long as he's one step ahead of Tony Olaf, he'll be fine. The researcher is completely dumbfounded, the sheer casual power of that statement leaving him speechless. He immediately bows, declaring that from this day forward, Zhou Yi is a benefactor of the entire Zhang family. But their moment is cut short by an angry shout from down the stairs. Zhou Yi turns to see none other than Tony Olaf himself, storming towards them with murder in his eyes. Tony demands to know if he's trying to ruin the Olaf family's 4-year plan. He gets right up in Zhou Yi's face, warning him that messing with his family in Near Eye City is a fatal mistake. The threat hangs heavy in the air, backed by a look of pure fury. But Zhou Yi just gives him a cold, unimpressed glance, completely unfazed by the blustering. A flashback reveals Tony's true colors. A scumbag who once sacrificed a teammate with explosives just to escape a boss monster. Turns out, He was the sole survivor of that mission and got grilled by a military officer about what really went down in the abyss. Back in the present, Zhou Yi sees that same arrogance. Realizing these tyrants think everyone should just bow to them, he casually turns to the researcher, Zhang Jie, and gets his attention. With a devilish grin, our boy asks if he'd like some help venting his anger on this loudmouth. Zhang Jie gives him a massive thumbs up, enthusiastically agreeing to add the beatdown to Zhou Yi's reward. Before Tony can even blink, a tooth is sent flying through the air. Zhou Yi lands a brutal right hook straight to his face, the impact echoing with a sickening crack. Tony is completely stunned, wondering who the hell this guy is when not even the commander of the extermination squad dares defy his family. And just like that, the pompous heir goes tumbling down the long flight of stairs, leaving a trail of blood. Tony's body smacks against the hard steps, leaving a bloody mess as he tumbles to the bottom. But this whole beatdown was caught on camera, and a very powerful figure is watching the replay, utterly dumbfounded. This shadowy man stands, commanding his subordinate to rise with an aura of pure menace. He grabs the man by the collar, demanding a full intelligence report on this Zhou Yi character by tonight. His subordinate is revealed to be Bai Zenting, the head of the city's intelligence bureau and patriarch of the Bai family. And the man in charge is Rhodes Olaf, chairman of the parliament and head of the Olaf family, who furiously swears that whoever dared to touch his kin will pay dearly. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the storm brewing, our boy casually flies back across the city. He touches down right outside his apartment, not a single care in the world. Inside, Zhou Yi is just chilling on his couch, munching on a bag of chips like nothing even happened. He calmly thinks to himself that the first round of the tournament wrapped up 2 days ago, already focused on the next challenge. He muses that the results shocked everyone, especially since the top dog, Tony Olaf, only managed 3rd place after getting kicked down the mountain. Turns out, before the match, our boy went all in, betting every magic crystal he had plus his own organs on himself at 1,000 to 1 odds. The casino boss who took that bet was left dumbfounded, begging for his life after Zhou Yi's impossible win. That poor guy had to sell off his entire operation just to pay our boy the promised 50 gold coins. And that's a small fortune. As Eileen once told him, 50 gold is what a top-tier hunter makes in a whole year. On top of that, he also got a hefty reward for saving the young master of the Zhang family. But his peaceful snack time is shattered when his front door gets kicked clean off its hinges. Zhou Yi is completely blindsided, popcorn flying everywhere as he whips around in shock. A masked figure stands in the doorway, having just delivered one hell of a house call. He immediately recognizes the intruder. It's none other than his squad captain, Eileen. And she does not look happy. She lays into him, absolutely dumbfounded that he'd turned down a luxury villa to live in this dump. But our boy remains completely unfazed by her outburst. He simply explains that he chose this place for a very practical reason: its location. Turns out, his shabby apartment is right next to the extermination squad's housing tower, where she lives. Eileen is left speechless for a moment, but then schools him on how to spend his new fortune. She reminds the rookie that in this apocalyptic world, every single coin should be invested in getting stronger. So, she hands him an invitation, telling him she's taking him to an auction tonight to broaden his horizons. Zhou Yi is completely blindsided, staring at the invitation in his hands. As night falls, the two of them set off through the dimly lit city streets. An awkward silence hangs between them as they walk, our boy clearly still processing the sudden turn of events. Our boy is immediately greeted by a rat and starts freaking out, wondering if this grimy back alley is legit. Eileen calmly explains that this is the black market, a place for high-demand goods not found on the public market. Zhou Yi is dumbfounded, questioning why an extermination squad captain would participate in something so illegal. She pays him no mind, walking straight up to a nondescript door tucked away in the shadows. With a few sharp knocks, she signals their arrival to whoever is on the other side. The door slides open with a heavy groan, revealing nothing but a pitch-black void. They both stand before the dark entrance, the air thick with anticipation. Eileen turns to him with a serious look, warning him to stick close no matter what. With that, they step through the threshold and into the darkness. The heavy door slams shut behind them, sealing them inside the mysterious auction house. The sudden flash of light nearly blinds our boy, leaving him completely disoriented. He finally gets his bearings and realizes they're in a massive, sterile white room, surrounded by shadowy figures. Before he can even process what's happening, the cloaked figures all draw their guns on them. One of the guards approaches, but Eileen remains completely unfazed, as if she expected this welcome party. The man pulls down his mask, his hand outstretched as he demands their invitation. Eileen, ever prepared, calmly pulls out a sleek black pass and hands it over. The guard inspects the invitation, confirming they're on the guest list for this shady event. With their credentials checked, the guard turns and instructs them to follow him. They're led up a flight of stairs towards another door, the true nature of this place still a mystery. The door opens, revealing a massive auction hall already packed with the city's elite and underworld figures. Our boy Zhou Yi is a little taken aback, realizing just how many powerful people are gathered in one place. Eileen leads him to their seats, blending in with the crowd as if they belong there. He leans over, whispering to ask if this shady auction is even legal. She coolly explains that with the Bai family backing it, legality is whatever they say it is. And besides, no regular citizens can even get in. Meanwhile, upstairs on the second floor, a much more exclusive party is underway. In a private room overlooking the auction hall, a high-ranking member of the Olaf family is lounging. This is Hart, a top agent for the Olafs, and he looks like he's just waiting for the show to start. Suddenly, one of his subordinates bursts into the room, looking completely panicked. The man reports that Eileen from the extermination squad is in the audience, and worse, Zhou Yi is right there with her. Down below, our heroes are completely oblivious that their arrival has already been noted by some very dangerous people. Hart just grins, thinking it's a small world now that his targets have walked right into his territory. Down on the stage, a bunny girl auctioneer kicks things off, promising a night of rare and valuable treasures. With a flourish, she gets ready to reveal the very first item up for grabs. And what's unveiled is a flawless merfolk tail, perfectly preserved in a glowing tank. The auctioneer hypes it up as a rare anti-aging delicacy that even normal humans can eat, starting the bid at 1 gold coin. The audience absolutely erupts, with some guys screaming that this premium item could save their dying relatives. But our boy Zhou Yi is dumbfounded. His system flags the tail as a trash, tier F-grade trait, and he can't believe the hype. Eileen shoots him a look, calling him an idiot, and explaining that for regular people, anything that extends lifespan is priceless. The auctioneer then moves on, presenting a batch of unsold monster parts from previous events at a steep discount. The more experienced hunters in the crowd just sneer, knowing this is just worthless junk used to bait clueless newbies. But as the crowd scoffs, the cockroach god scan reveals a mix of trash tier and A-rank traits hidden in the pile. A wicked grin spreads across our boy's face. He's just spotted a gold mine everyone else thinks is a landfill. Without a second thought, Zhou Yi shoots his hand up, shocking everyone by declaring he'll buy the entire lot. The auctioneer is absolutely floored, thinking she's just found the biggest sucker of the night. But Zhou Yi knows the truth. He's the one who's about to cash out big time. Eileen just stares at him, completely convinced that he's lost his mind. Ignoring the commotion, the auctioneer unveils the next item, hyping it as a treasure from a C-rank abyss. Zhou Yi's demeanor instantly changes, telling Eileen to watch closely because his real target is finally here. She pulls back the cloth to reveal a magnificent, glowing magic crystal from the Frostfang Plateau spider. With the starting price set at a single gold coin, she officially kicks off the bidding for the main event. Suddenly, Eileen is hit with a flashback of a humiliating defeat against a powerful, red-armored foe. She knows that if her Snowfang blades gain an ice affinity, they'll become exponentially stronger. With burning resolve, she vows to herself that she will never suffer that kind of shame again. Without a moment's hesitation, she raises her paddle, placing the first bid on the Frostfang crystal. The auctioneer happily accepts the bid from seat 17, asking if anyone else is interested. But just then, a button is pressed from the VIP section. Seat number 1. The auctioneer's eyes light up as she announces a massive bid of 10 gold coins from their most honored guest. Turns out, it's an agent of the Olaf family, Hart, who smirks, realizing Eileen is after the same item his master wants. Eileen glares over, her expression turning ice cold as she processes this new development. She's dumbfounded. If the Olaf family is bidding, this just turned from a simple auction into a war. Refusing to back down, Eileen immediately raises her paddle, determined to win this fight. From the VIP box, Hart just smirks and casually presses his button, bumping the price to 15 gold. Eileen doesn't even hesitate, instantly countering with a bid of 20 gold. The Olaf agent slams his button again, raising the stakes to a whopping 25 gold without a second thought. The crowd starts whispering, wondering if this girl from the extermination squad is insane for challenging the Olaf family. Even our boy Zhou Yi realizes this is a bad situation, but Eileen's face is a mask of pure determination. Hart scoffs, thinking there's no way a mere vice captain could possibly have enough money to compete with him. But he's dead wrong. Eileen's eyes burn with a furious intensity, showing she's ready to go all in. She shoots her paddle into the air, shouting out a massive bid of 30 gold, silencing the entire room. The auctioneer is ecstatic, calling this the most exciting bidding war of the night as the tension reaches its peak. Eileen grits her teeth, realizing she just bet her entire life savings, praying it's enough to scare him off. The auctioneer is absolutely floored by the sheer audacity of this bidding war, but Hart just smirks, casually raising the bid to 35 gold, as if it's pocket change. The rest of the audience is completely dumbfounded, their jaws on the floor at the insane amount of money being thrown around. That last bid shatters Eileen's resolve. She slumps over, completely out of options and utterly defeated. To make things worse, one of Hart's goons suddenly appears behind them, identifying them by name. The man leans in, letting them know his boss sent him over with a special message. With a disgusting sneer, he mocks them for being out of money, telling them this auction house is no place for paupers. From his VIP seat, Hart is laughing maniacally, clearly enjoying their public humiliation. On stage, the auctioneer begins the final countdown, ready to declare the Olaf family the winner. But just as the hammer is about to fall, another paddle shoots up from the crowd. Our boy Zhou Yi stands up, not about to let Eileen's humiliation slide. With a savage grin, he throws down an earth-shattering bid of 50 gold, leaving everyone speechless. The entire auction hall erupts in chaos, with people absolutely losing their minds over the sudden challenge. Eileen looks up at Zhao Yi, completely stunned that he'd step in for her like this. From his private room, Hart just smirks, finding this little act of defiance rather amusing. He muses that in all his years working for the Olaf family, no one has ever had the guts to challenge them. With a condescending laugh, he decides it's time to put this nobody back in his place. The auctioneer announces Hart's counter bid of 55 gold, but he's not even done. Hart immediately slams the button again, instantly raising the price to a staggering 60 gold. The auctioneer is losing her mind as the bids jump from 70 to 80 gold in a flash. But our boy Zhou Yi, without even flinching, casually raises the stakes to a clean 90 gold. Eileen immediately panics, telling him they're broke and can't possibly go any higher. He just smirks, telling her not to sweat it. They'll win first and he'll sort out the money with Zhongzhe later. Just then, a familiar voice pipes up, asking what a few gold coins matter between friends. It's Zhongzhe himself, who casually strolls in and offers to cover their entire tab, leaving Eileen dumbfounded. Back in the VIP room, Hart's aide is freaking out, telling his boss they're way over budget, and Zhongzhe is backing the enemy. Zhou Yi just flips them the bird from his seat, telling the broke losers to get out if they can't afford to play. Hart is left absolutely seething, his face contorted with pure, unadulterated rage at the public humiliation. Later that night, Eileen thanks Zhou Yi for his help, promising she'll find a way to repay the massive debt she now owes him. Our boy just gives her a thumbs up, telling her not to be so formal. He's just following her advice to invest everything into getting stronger. But their conversation is cut short when a violent tremor suddenly rocks the entire city, catching everyone off guard. Even the unflappable Zhongzhe is completely dumbfounded, wondering what in the world is going on. Eileen's phone buzzes with an emergency alert. All extermination squads are to respond to a disaster-level threat. In the distance, a massive shockwave emanates from the city's outskirts, signaling the source of the chaos. A remote mountain range begins to tremble, as if the very earth is about to split open. The peak shatters, bursting upwards as something colossal begins to claw its way out from beneath the ground. A terrifying giant worm monster erupts from the mountain, its multiple maws roaring at the sky. But before it can even take a breath, it's instantly swarmed by vicious tendrils of crimson energy. The newly spawned disaster-level threat is torn to shreds in a bloody instant, leaving nothing but a gory mist. The trio is hit by the shockwave, completely stunned by the sudden citywide crisis. Zhongzhe is the first to crack, utterly panicking and demanding to know what's going on. Eileen, however, is a professional. Her phone buzzes with a disaster level, a protocol for all extermination squads. Her orders are clear. As vice captain, she needs to rally patrol teams and evacuate civilians immediately. She turns to give the two of them an order, likely telling them to find cover and stay out of it. But our boy Zhou Yi cuts her off, declaring that every combat unit is needed right now and he's ready to fight. Inspired by his bravery, Zhongzhe shoves his fear aside and insists on being counted in too. With no time to waste, Eileen accepts their help and tells them to follow her as they dash into the fray. The situation is dire. Drones fly over the burning city, broadcasting evacuation orders on a loop. On the streets below, it's pure chaos as citizens scream and run for their lives from the spreading destruction. The evacuation descends into a frantic mob as people shove their way towards the underground shelter. Just as they reach the entrance, a monstrous roar from the burning city stops everyone dead in their tracks. A woman's terrified scream draws all eyes to the sky, where a new nightmare is unfolding. An entire swarm of giant, winged insect monsters descends upon the city, blotting out the sky. Without warning, one of the beasts dive bombs straight into the crowd, causing a bloody explosion. The impact sends civilians flying, leaving them dumbfounded by the sheer brutality of the attack. One man, having seen the carnage up close, can do nothing but let out a soul-shattering scream. The crowd breaks into a full-blown stampede as the monster looms over them, ready to feast. Amidst the chaos, a little girl gets separated from her family, crying out for her mother. Her mother, ignoring her own safety, rushes back through the panicked crowd to snatch her daughter from danger. But the skyborne terrors weren't the only threat. Now, sharp, armored projectiles rain down on the city. They hit the ground like mortar shells, blasting through the panicked civilians in a spray of gore. The culprits are revealed. A new wave of heavily armored, crab-like monsters, and they look pissed. Without hesitation, one of the beasts launches itself forward like a living bullet. It smashes clean through a man's chest, an absolutely brutal one-shot kill. The entire street becomes a slaughterhouse as these armored freaks begin their bloody rampage. The mother continues her desperate sprint, clutching her daughter and somehow evading the chaos. But her luck runs out when another crab monster lands directly in her path, cutting off her escape. Just as it lunges, a shadowy figure with massive claws appears, shielding the mother and child from the attack. She looks up, tears in her eyes, completely dumbfounded by the sudden arrival of her mysterious savior. Her savior is revealed to be our boy, Zhou Yi, who unleashes a fiery scythe, carving a path through the monsters. The mother can only stare, her mind completely blank from the sheer shock of it all. Zhou Yi doesn't even flinch, his eyes burning with cold fury as he sizes up the remaining threats. He channels his power, the flames of his weapon swirling with destructive intent. With a brutal leap, he impales another crab freak, slamming it into the ground with overwhelming force. He lands protectively in front of the family, his faint antennae betraying his inhuman nature. Snapping out of her stupor, the mother is overcome with relief and tearfully thanks him for saving their lives. But before he can respond, a shout from the crowd of survivors pulls his attention away. Turns out it's Eileen, and she's absolutely manhandling two guys, demanding to know what they're up to. Sukai recognizes the goons immediately, telling Zhou Yi that these are the same clowns who were with Tony Olaf. Zhou Yi silently judges them, disgusted that fellow Awakeners would disguise themselves and hide while civilians died. Eileen introduces herself as the vice captain of Extermination Squad 1 and immediately drafts the two cowards for city defense. The spiky-haired goon flips out, yelling that he came here to make money, not to get himself killed. His buddy chimes in, telling her this is the squad's business and has absolutely nothing to do with them. The first goon then turns on Zhou Yi, sarcastically suggesting that since he loves showing off, he should handle it. He even sneers that he hopes the monsters take down this year's so-called hotshot favorite. But before he can finish his sentence, Eileen's purple energy whips violently wrap around his entire body. With a brutal yank, she sends him flying and slams him face first into the concrete. The goon is left completely stunned, unable to process what just happened. Eileen stands over him, her eyes glowing menacingly, and makes it clear this is a conscription, not a negotiation. With ice in her veins, Eileen orders the pathetic cowards to be taken away and treated as deserters. The goon starts screaming, trying to pull rank by claiming he's an Olympic athlete and not even officially in the squad yet. Our boy Zhou Yi steps up, disgusted, asking how someone who only knows how to suck up to the powerful could ever deserve to join the squad. Suddenly, Eileen's phone buzzes with an urgent citywide alert. All combat personnel are to assist at Vermilion Gate immediately. The situation is dire. The gate is already engulfed in a massive, raging inferno. Both she and Zhou Yi look on as the city burns, realizing this is way bigger than a few trash-tier recruits. Without a moment's hesitation, Eileen tells Zhou Yi to come with her, and he instantly agrees. They hop on a motorcycle and tear through the streets, racing towards the heart of the disaster. Arriving at the scene, they find the colossal gate breached and flames pouring out into the city. And from within, the fire emerges a monstrous, heavily armored insectoid, ready to wreak havoc. Eileen grits her teeth, declaring there's no time to wait for backup. They're going in right now. They ditch the motorcycle, leaving it behind as they prepare to leap into the fray. Using her telekinetic powers, she grabs our boy and launches them both over the massive, burning gate. They land in a scene of absolute carnage, surrounded by the bodies of fallen soldiers and monsters. She grimly states that they were too late to save the defenders at the wall. Before them, a literal sea of insectoid monsters swarms forward, and Zhou Yi can't believe it's just the two of them. But the captain doesn't even flinch, her expression hardening with cold resolve. Her eyes then lock onto a massive defense cannon still intact on the wall, a plan clicking into place. She tells Zhou Yi that if that cannon still works, they might actually be able to hold the line. With a burst of energy, she orders him to hold off the horde for 2 minutes while she gets the weapon online. Our boy stands alone, facing down a literal tidal wave of winged insectoid nightmares. Hes completely dumbfounded, wondering how in the world he's supposed to hold this horde off by himself for 2 minutes. But with no other choice, he plants his feet, grits his teeth, and resolves to hold the line no matter what. Without a second to waste, he unleashes his cockroach scythe, slicing through the vanguard of the swarm. The monsters are relentless, and one of the beasts manages to slip past his guard and close in from behind. Thinking fast, he whips out his sticky tongue, a nasty trick he picked up a while back. He latches onto a nearby monster, using its body as a living wrecking ball to smash another one out of the sky. Roaring with defiance, he vows that not a single one of these trash-tier monsters will get past him. But just as he's gaining some ground, a colossal shadow falls over him as a gigantic claw descends from above. Before he can even blink, the massive claw smashes down, impaling our boy straight through the chest. But instead of death, a searing hot power erupts from our boy, manifesting as a fiery spear in his hands. With this new weapon, he desperately parries the storm of claws raining down on him. He's panting, bleeding, and running on fumes, but his eyes burn with pure, unyielding defiance. Just then, a much larger, more menacing insect monster descends, its presence dwarfing the others. He finally gets it. He understands why those other two were too scared to fight, realizing one wrong move means instant death. Standing over the corpse of the beast he just took down, he knows this is just the beginning. The mangled face of the dead monster is a grim reminder of the brutality of this battlefield. But even knowing the odds, his resolve doesn't waver for a second. The alpha monster lunges forward, its massive scythe-like arm blotting out the sky. Zhou Yi leaps back just in time as the claw smashes into the ground, a hair's breadth from turning him into paste. Instead of retreating, our boy pivots on a dime and slams his spear deep into the monster's attacking limb. He grits his teeth, knowing that being scared spitless is no excuse to run away from a fight. Reaching into the gushing wound, he pulls out a glowing red crystal, ready to absorb its essence. A system notification confirms it. He's acquired the dragon-grasping claw, and his arms begin to twist into something new. But there's no time to adapt, as a whole swarm of lesser insectoids suddenly closes in from all sides. Roaring for them to get the hell out of his way, he tests his new power with a massive, fiery slash. He's left dumbfounded, as an even larger scythe arm slices down from above, making his attack look like a joke. The resulting impact is absolutely colossal, kicking up a massive cloud of dust and debris. When the smoke clears, a different monster, a huge armored crab, lies dead before a fortified wall, clutching a strange purple orb. Before he can even catch his breath, the orb cracks open and a whole squad of smaller, identical crab monsters hatches right before his eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, the newborn crab monsters launch themselves forward like living cannonballs. They detonate against the fortified wall, showing they're nothing but trash-tier suicide bombers. But their strength isn't in their individual power. It's in their horrifying, seemingly endless numbers. Our boy can only kneel in frustration, realizing this is a whole different level of nightmare. Hess completely surrounded, thinking that at this rate, they'll just keep coming forever. He grimly wonders where the hell that 2-minute backup from Vice Captain Eileen is. Glancing back at the city, the cold reality hits him. If this wall falls, everyone behind it is dead. The thought of more innocent people dying because he failed is something he just can't stomach. His expression hardens with grim resolve. There's no running away from this. He channels his power, remembering the promise he made to himself the moment he stepped onto this wall. With retreat no longer an option, our boy ignites his weapon with a furious resolve. The swarm of winged insect monsters lets out a deafening roar as they dive straight for him. He hurls his flaming spear with all his might, pouring every last drop of power into the throw. The weapon transforms mid-air into a catastrophic attack. Scorching heaven, molten spiral. This fiery vortex rips through the horde, instantly incinerating the front lines into nothing but ash. But while our boy holds the line, deep inside the city, the defense control room is in total chaos. The lead technician is losing his mind, screaming that none of the defense systems are activating. His subordinate confirms the worst. The sequence runs, but the main crystal is completely dead. Just as all hope seems lost, a mysterious man calmly steps forward and says he'll handle it. The lead technician is completely dumbfounded, wondering who this guy is and if he's just some rookie. Turns out, this isn't some rookie but Zhang Jie, the young master of the clan that designed this entire system. Without wasting a breath, he shoves the others aside and gets straight to work on the main console. Suddenly, 2 sleek, mechanical arms sprout from his back, ready to interface with the system. His hands, both real and mechanical, fly across the terminals, inputting commands at a dizzying speed. He runs a full diagnostic, his eyes glowing as he processes the data flooding the screens. The results are baffling. The crystal response, the amplifier, and the threat detection are all stable. He's dumbfounded for a second. If the hardware is fine, then the problem must be something else entirely. A new, terrifying possibility dawns on him as he realizes where the true failure might lie. His fingers become a blur, digging deeper into the system's core energy logs. And there it is, just as he feared. A critical energy interruption message flashes in red. The horrifying truth hits him. Someone used an emergency override to deliberately cut all power from the crystals. It wasn't just one system. The watchtowers, bunkers, and every single defense cannon had been disabled by this traitor. Zhang Zhe realizes this shutdown command is so extreme, it's not even used during regular maintenance. The control room lead is absolutely livid, questioning if someone is really trying to hand Near City over to the monsters. Without wasting a second, Zhang Zhe slams his hands on the console, prioritizing a forced reboot of the city's internal weapons. He smashes the enter key, pushing the system to its absolute limit to get the defenses back online. A surge of red energy erupts from the main terminal as the system violently reboots. Outside on the city walls, the massive defense cannons begin to power up, their barrels glowing with deadly intent. They immediately unleash a devastating barrage, lighting up the sky and vaporizing the swarming insect monsters. Back in the control room, the entire crew erupts in cheers, watching the monitors as the systems finally come back online. While his team celebrates, Zhang Zhe is already back at it, his fingers flying across the keyboard. He reflects that it's a good thing the extermination squad runs so many disaster drills. On the ground, the church is already handling medical support, healing the wounded amidst the chaos. Meanwhile, the Shadowy Intelligence Bureau is doing its part, keeping order inside the city. Their agents are already directing the flow of panicked civilians, trying to prevent a total breakdown. Zhang Jie scoffs internally, knowing the military's original plan was to let the squad get torn to shreds. But now that the entire city is on the brink of collapse, they have no choice but to finally step in. He can't help but think that if they'd just mobilized earlier, the damage wouldn't have been this catastrophic. Looking at his cheering colleagues, he knows this victory is temporary. The real fight is far from over. Even with the system rebooted, he realizes the remaining turrets have to hold the line, no matter what. Back at the city's perimeter, the final defensive wall is taking a beating. Everyone knows that if this wall falls, the entire city is completely finished. Our boy Zhou Yi is on his last legs, panting heavily after unleashing that massive attack. He's standing on a mountain of monster corpses, but the fight is far from over. He grits his teeth, realizing the molten spiral has a long cooldown and the enemy isn't giving him a second to recover. In desperation, he screams into the sky, demanding to know where Eileen is and what's taking her so long. But his call is answered by a new threat, a monstrous purple beast lunging through the smoke. The colossal creature barrels towards him, its multiple maws wide open and ready to devour him whole. With no other choice, Zhou Yi musters what's left of his strength, his aura flaring up once more. He meets the monster's charge head-on, preparing to clash with the terrifying beast. He lunges forward, spear ready, putting every last ounce of energy into this desperate defense. Glancing back at the turret, he knows it's their only real hope, but his stamina is hitting rock bottom. Hez furious, screaming that Eileen promised 2 minutes, but it's been nearly 10 and he's all alone. Facing the new monstrosity, he yells out into the battlefield, demanding to know if she's ever going to show up. The beast's glowing purple eyes lock onto its target, letting out an ear-splitting screech. It lunges with blinding speed, its armored head a blur of purple death aimed right at him. But just as he braces for impact, our boy is completely dumbfounded by what happens next. The monster's head whips right past him, not even trying to make contact. Its long, serpentine body follows, ignoring him completely as it rockets towards the backline. A horrifying realization hits him: the trash-tier beast isn't after him. It's going for the turret. Thinking fast, our boy hurls his spear like a javelin, aiming to pin the beast down. He lands right on its head and drives the spear deep, but the monster doesn't even flinch. With a roar of defiance, Zhou Yi channels every last bit of his fiery power into the weapon. He unleashes his ultimate attack, engulfing the monster's head in a massive pillar of fire. But the damn thing is unstoppable, shrugging off the flames as it closes in on the turret. Zhou Yi can only watch in horror, realizing his strongest attack was completely useless. Suddenly, the turret's cannon begins to glow, charging up a city-leveling blast. A colossal beam of pure energy erupts from the barrel, slamming directly into the monster's face. As the smoke clears, Zhou Yi stands there, breathless, wondering if that was finally enough to kill it. And just then, a familiar face pops out of the turret's hatch: Eileen, fashionably late as always. Eileen grits her teeth, declaring that the crystal power has finally been restored. It seems she's not bluffing, as smaller automated turrets also begin to open fire. The giant beast retaliates, unleashing a deadly barrage of razor-sharp energy shards. Down below, Zhou Yi and Eileen land on the ground, ready for the next phase of the fight. Our boy watches the chaos unfold, a grim determination etched on his face. They're not alone. A squad of elite soldiers has arrived, reporting that they're in position. Eileen takes charge, ordering everyone to hold the line until the main wall turrets are back online. And it's a good thing they have backup, because the colossal monster is spawning a horde of smaller creatures to swarm the walls. A tide of creepy, purple, scorpion-like monsters scurries across the ground, overwhelming the defenses. The newly arrived squad doesn't hesitate, unleashing a volley of energy blasts to thin out the swarm. The squad leader roars the command to fire, and his men unleash hell upon the approaching swarm. They pour on the firepower, a relentless stream of energy bolts aimed at the monstrous tide. But it's no use. One of the creatures barrels through the gunfire and slams right into a soldier. The man screams as the monster's sharp carapace tears him apart, his comrades watching in horror. Another soldier stands over his fallen brother, yelling at him to get back on his feet, refusing to believe it's over. His momentary distraction is a fatal mistake, as another scorpion monster gets the drop on him. The creature lunges, its maw clamping down hard on the soldier's head with a sickening crunch. His body goes limp in an instant, another casualty in a fight that's turning into a massacre. All around them, the elite soldiers are being torn to shreds, their formation completely shattered. The squad leader is left completely dumbfounded, watching his unit get systematically wiped out. Suddenly, one of the scorpion monsters gets blasted from the side, screeching in agony. The air is thick with the screams of dying men and the chittering of the relentless swarm. But cutting through the chaos is a whirlwind of fire. Our boy, Zhou Yi, has finally arrived. He unleashes his scorching heaven technique, obliterating one of the armored insectoids in a single, brutal strike. Panting heavily, He takes a quick second to catch his breath after clearing the immediate area. He shouts over his shoulder for the soldiers to fall back, telling them he'll cover their retreat. But a horrifying realization dawns on him as he sees he's standing alone amidst a field of corpses. The sheer number of dead soldiers leaves him completely stunned, the weight of the failure crashing down on him. His shock quickly morphs into pure, seething rage at his inability to save them. As if on cue, a fresh wave of winged monsters descends, and he can only curse them for the hell they've brought. Fueled by grief, our boy unleashes a torrent of fire, screaming for every last monster to just die already. But amidst the fiery chaos, a strange hum echoes as a nearby transmission tower suddenly glows with immense power. The ground itself begins to tremble and crack as a massive hidden panel starts to rise from below. With a heavy groan, the silo door opens, revealing something absolutely colossal hidden beneath the city. The commotion snaps Zhou Yi out of his rage, leaving him dumbfounded by the sight of the emerging structure. It's a ridiculously huge cannon, and standing at its base, looking completely unfazed, is Squad Captain Eileen. She stares down the battlefield with cold determination, ready to unleash the city's last line of defense. Back in the control room, the operators work frantically, channeling power to the city's trump card. The lead operator confirms it's ready. The entire wall is lined with these guardian cannons, all fully charged. And not a moment too soon, as a new swarm of vicious, red-armored insectoids comes screeching through the sky. With ice in her veins, Eileen gives the one-word command to unleash hell. The guardian cannons roar to life, launching a volley of pure destruction. A storm of fiery projectiles rains down from the sky, targeting the heart of the monster swarm. The moment they hit, the ground erupts in a series of earth-shattering explosions. Even the colossal purple draconic monster is caught dead center in the blast, getting absolutely shredded. The beast doesn't stand a chance, as its body is completely vaporized by the overwhelming force. Our boy Zhou Yi can only watch as the inferno consumes everything in its path. Hez left speechless, realizing the city's defenses were on a whole other level. The entire battlefield is swallowed by a blinding flash of white-hot energy. When the light finally fades, there's nothing left but a smoking, desolate crater. In the eerie silence after the blast, our boy Zhou Yi stands alone, watching the last embers fall. He turns to Eileen and gives her the grim summary. The cannon wiped out most of them, and the cowards who survived ran for the hills. But Eileen isn't celebrating, explaining that while the cannon is powerful, it needs a long time to recharge between shots. She continues, revealing that they usually detect these abyssal breaches weeks in advance, giving them ample time to prepare. Zhou Yi listens silently, the pieces clicking into place, and he does not like the picture they're forming. With a haunted look, Eileen admits that this time, the attack came without a single shred of warning. He realizes this wasn't just a random monster wave, this was a calculated, stealthy invasion. Seeing her on the verge of breaking, he puts a comforting hand on her shoulder. He tells her this isn't her fault, as they both stand amidst the bodies of the fallen soldiers who died holding the line. She whispers that she knows, but the guilt of losing so many of her squad is clearly eating her alive. Eileen admits to Zhou Yi that the weight of her fallen comrades is just too hard to bear. But before he can respond, the entire ground beneath them erupts with a deafening roar. Our boy instinctively shoves Eileen back, his face a mask of pure shock as the earth shatters. The disturbance isn't small, it's a massive upheaval that tears through the battlefield's foundation. The ground continues to split apart as something absolutely colossal begins to claw its way to the surface. A monstrous tentacle bursts from the abyss, dwarfing both of them in an instant. It's not just one. More tentacles rise from the ground, making the city's defense cannons look like children's toys. One of the massive appendages whips through the air, targeting the very cannon that saved them moments ago. Zhou Yi can't believe his eyes. This thing is on a completely different level from the monsters they just fought. The tentacle smashes into the ground with enough force to obliterate a city block, narrowly missing them. The ground gives way completely, sending our boy plummeting into the darkness below. He's in a freefall, the shock and terror clear on his face as debris rains down around him. Eileen is right there with him, both of them screaming as they fall into the newly formed chasm. But Zhou Yi isn't about to go down without a fight. He instantly activates his extra-long ape arms. With incredible speed, his transformed arm shoots out and snags Eileen mid-air, stopping her fall. His other hand slams into the cliff face, his fingers digging in to halt their momentum with a jarring crunch. Now they're just dangling precariously, a human chain against the sheer rock wall of the abyss. Eileen looks up, completely stunned that he managed to save them from certain death. Above them, the colossal tentacles have already finished their work, having wiped out all the city's cannons in an instant. Zhou Yi just stares up in disbelief, wondering what in the hell they're supposed to do now. Suddenly, another nightmare crawls from the chasm, a colossal, multi-eyed worm that makes the last beast look like a pet. It lets out a world-shaking roar, its raw power making it clear it's on a whole other level. Zhou Yi and Eileen share a look of pure dread. They absolutely cannot let this thing destroy the wall. With no other choice, they launch themselves off the cliffside, hurtling towards the new threat. Our boy unleashes his scorching heaven technique while Eileen manifests a deadly psychic blade. They dive in perfect sync, aiming a devastating pincer attack right at the monster's head. Their combined powers collide with the beast's skull in a massive explosion of fire and energy. But when the smoke clears, there isn't even a scratch on its trash-tier hide. Zhou Yi is completely dumbfounded. Their strongest attacks did absolutely nothing to it. Wasting no time, he redirects his momentum, aiming his flaming fist straight for the creature's giant, unblinking eye. He roars that if its skin is tougher than steel, then he'll just have to gouge out its eyes. His fist connects in a blinding flash, a direct hit that should have turned the eyeball to mush, but it's no good. He finds himself standing on Eileen's psychic blade, which barely managed to pierce the eye's outer layer. Our boy is completely stunned. Even the monster's eyeball has some kind of trash-tier armor. The colossal worm doesn't even flinch, treating their most desperate attacks like a minor annoyance. With a simple shrug of its head, it prepares to continue its assault on the city below. The cracks on its eye begin to seal up instantly, its regenerative powers working at an insane speed. Zhou Yi can only grit his teeth in frustration, realizing they are completely outmatched. Ignoring them, the beast smashes its head directly into the massive defensive wall with devastating force. The shockwave sends both him and Eileen flying as they curse their powerlessness. Eileen screams in pure terror, realizing that at this rate, the entire wall is going to collapse. The colossal worm monster just looms over the wreckage, treating our heroes like ants on the sidewalk. It finally turns its attention back to them, its massive maw opening wide to swallow them whole. From their perspective, it's like staring into the abyss itself as its glowing purple eyes lock onto them. But just as all hope seems lost, a flash of red from an unknown warrior signals a change of plans. A crimson spear of pure energy slices through the air, heading straight for the beast's face. The attack connects with brutal force, staggering the seemingly invincible monster for the first time. Both Zhou Yi and Eileen are left completely dumbfounded, wondering who the hell just showed up. Turns out, it's some mysterious spearman, standing there like he owns the place after that insane shot. Eileen can't believe her eyes, recognizing the man as Captain Lingxiao. This is He Lingxiao, the legendary captain of Unit 1, and he looks thoroughly unimpressed by the chaos. He plants his spear, standing as a one-man wall between our crew and the colossal beast. While our boy is still processing, Eileen explains that this is her squad leader, second only to the commander himself. Turns out, his worn-out appearance is because his ability is blood manipulation, and years of non-stop fighting have left him with chronic anemia. He Lingxiao starts drawing his blood back, pulling it from his spear and the battlefield. He clenches his hand, concentrating all that crimson energy into a single, devastating fist. But Eileen warns not to let his condition fool them for a second. He Lingxiao proves her right by unleashing a brutal barrage of massive blood fists, absolutely hammering the giant worm into submission. Our boy can only watch, completely dumbfounded by the sheer power on display. The giant worm monster groans in agony, its armored head bleeding from the relentless assault. But it's far from finished. Its multiple eyes flare with purple energy as it prepares a counterattack. With a furious roar, the beast slams its massive head down like a meteor. The impact is so immense, it sends shockwaves tearing through the ground. The entire battlefield shatters under the colossal force of the blow. Zhou Yi is sent flying, screaming that the shockwave was strong enough to crack the city wall, but Eileen just tells him to relax, because down in the crater, the captain is casually holding back the monster's full weight with just one hand. He Lingxiao stands completely unfazed, stating that such a trash-tier attack could never hope to harm him. With a cold, unimpressed look, He Lingxiao gives his wrist a simple, almost casual twist. In the next instant, he rips the colossal monster's head clean off its body in a geyser of crimson. But this isn't just blood, it's his weapon, and he begins to morph the liquid into something new. The blood coalesces, hardening into a series of brutal, sharp spikes under his absolute control. He then slams the blood spikes down with incredible force, pinning the monster's severed head to the ground. The worm's head can only writhe in its final moments as the captain stands over it, utterly dominant. Wiping a stray drop of blood from his lip, He Lingxiao looks over the battlefield and speaks to the spirits of the fallen. He declares that he has heard the fear, rage, and sorrow of every soldier who died here. As he speaks, blood begins to rise from the corpses of fallen soldiers and monsters alike, drawn to its new master. All the blood from the battlefield gathers, twisting and hardening into a single deadly point. He Lingxiao forges this river of crimson into a colossal scythe, a weapon born from sacrifice. He promises the fallen that, with their blood, he will personally end the true beast behind this catastrophe. And there it is, the real target, a colossal armored worm, roaring as it emerges from the ground. With a single, fluid motion, the captain swings his blood-forged scythe with world-ending force. The impact is a blinding flash of red, a silent scream of absolute destruction. Watching from the sidelines, both Zhou Yi and Eileen are left utterly speechless by this display of raw power. The armored beast's head doesn't just get cut, it's split perfectly down the middle, Captain Ling Xiao stands between the two bisected halves of the monster, a true god of the battlefield. Our boy Zhou Yi is completely floored, feeling the terrifying pressure rolling off the captain. So this is the power of Squad 1's leader. But even a monster like Captain Ling Xiao isn't invincible. The sheer force of his attack has clearly taken a toll on his body. Eileen cautiously approaches him, stepping through the bloody wasteland he created with that single, devastating swing. The captain looks over the battlefield, speaking to his fallen men, telling them he's proud that not a single one of them faltered. She points out that he's bleeding, but he just shrugs it off, admitting he might have gotten a little carried away during his warm-up. As Eileen offers him a bandage, he vows that this grudge will be settled once and for all when he finally slays the Abyssal Lord. This whole scene is a massive reality check for Zhou Yi, who realizes that despite his growth, he's still leagues below a true captain. But his introspection is cut short as his antennae twitch, sensing something approaching from the sky. He looks up, dumbfounded, to see a massive fleet of military transports finally arriving on the scene.